Yo, can you guys hear me? Yo, what up, everybody? In a moment, we're going to have on Zach and Gavin from the Vanguard to talk about what's going on in our country right now. A lot of stuff is happening, not just in Minnesota, though, across the country. And so it's going to be a freewheeling conversation, I hope, where we discuss, the state of affairs in the country. Also intending to talk a little bit about the state of Democratic politics. And there they are. In a second, we'll show them. But yeah, that's the conversation that's going to happen. And in a second, we'll transition the scene so you guys can see Zach and Gavin from the Vanguard. So just one moment. Can you hear me, Gavin?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. Just give me 1 second to fix the source and we'll be good, all right?
'Yeah, no worries, man.
Okie dokie. And I'm about to transition. People are going to be able to see you in just 1 sec. Awesome. Just give me 1 second to fix. There's a little bit of an echo. Maybe that's because the stream's on for one of you guys, but how you doing, boys?
Yeah, I had your stream on in the background a second ago, so that was probably what it was. Do you still hear an echo?
No, we're good. We're good now. Good to see you. I think Zach's getting his cam on, but good to have you folks here.
Yeah, I might have to re-enter really quickly because for
No
whatever
worries.
reason it's telling me failed to start the video camera. Sorry about that. I'll be right back.
Yep, no worries. We're just shooting the shit. So tell me, Gavin, are you guys getting hit by a storm there? And it's Kansas, right?
Kansas City, Missouri, actually.
Yeah, Kansas City, Missouri.
That's a common
that's right.
misconception.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and there's a Kansas City, Kansas too. It's all good though. So, it's an easy mistake to make. But yeah, we're in Missouri. Yeah, there's been a lot of snow. But as of this morning, seems to be mostly shoveled out of the roads and stuff like that. Most of the businesses in the nearby area have reopened. So luckily I was able to get my coffee this morning, something I had to miss out on yesterday, which was a real bummer. I was able to make it at home, obviously, but it's just never the same, So I was glad to get out to the store this morning and restock.
I'm from the East Coast, and so we're big Dunkin' people, and so that shit coffee just doesn't hit the same when it's made from home. I don't know if you saw Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz famously had the whole moment in Texas where he left. Do you remember this? It was cold, and he was going to Cancun.
Cancun Cruz.
Cancun Cruz.
Yeah, the Cancun Cruz.
How could you forget?
And so he's taking a swipe at Andy Bashir because someone's just lying and saying that Andy Bashir is in. He was in Davos last week with a bunch of other leaders, including Trump himself. And Ted Cruz, retweets one of these motherfuckers. But it turns out Andy Bashir is actually, in Kentucky. So, unlike Ted, some of us need to actually suffer through the inclement weather. But good to have you both here. Thank you so much for joining me on this wonderful Sunday day. Kind of a dark weekend though. And so, first of all, just introduce yourselves and yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, appreciate you having us on, Pisco. It's great to chat again. I know. I think the last time we were on your show, it sent ripples through the community.
That was on Live and Learn. Live and Learn. Yeah.
Right. But I never really understood what the issue was exactly. Other than some people disagreed with us, obviously. But it seemed like it really, it really messed up your shit for a while there. So I appreciate you having us back on.
No. Thank you guys. Listen, why don't we address that elephant then? It was actually, I don't know if you remember, we collabed before that fateful episode on Lib and Learn. Interesting aspect ratio there, Zach. It's I don't know if you see it too. Again,
I know. I'm trying to fix it.
No worries. Take your time. You're good. I know you guys are film aficionados, and so I understand that.
Yeah. It's the artist,
Yeah. But so to give you a recap, we actually collabed before that Lib and Learn episode, and there was no drama whatsoever. It was just we're talking to the Vanguard or whatever. But yeah, the elephant in the room is that Lib and Learn podcast sent ripples in our little mini community over here on the, I think, false notion that we did not sufficiently push back on points of disagreement with you during the conversation. And I rejected that framing for a lot of reasons, chief among them, the fact that I did push back on some things and we disagreed on some things. But also the fact that to facilitate a conversation, it's kind of hard when Hutch is taking the role of the major disagreeer. I think it needs to be some sort of back and forth. And then also Josiah was kind of pissed at me because he heard me say something that he interpreted one way. And so yeah, the conversation then developed though into a broader conversation about who is part of the movement, who is part of the coalition. And so before I give you my take, what is your reaction to that? Was that bizarre to you to watch? Or yeah, what's your thoughts on that?
I was mostly just confused about what the issue was. I mean, I knew we had some haters, but I just was a little bit confused about what the issue was because, as you said, there was pushback. It was practically a debate. We were kind of getting into it at various points, and it seemed we kind of hashed out some of our disagreements, but that was what the point was. So I was just what even is the issue? I don't even is Pisco just not allowed to talk to people he disagrees with or something? Your whole point of the show is debating and doing stuff like that. So I didn't really understand it, but I mostly just thought it was funny. I was just damn, I mean, I felt kind of bad, but I mostly just thought it was kind of amusing.
No, it is true that my show, I will oftentimes, I don't know if you know who Drew Pavlu is. He's this
yeah. He's the Australian guy.
Yeah,
right?
he's an Australian. He's a bit of a rage baiter, but he's also politically a chameleon. He'll wake up and be like the most liberal hawk there's ever been, and then he'll wake up the next day and be like a little bit of a Bernie simp, or at least that was his initial inclination. And then he'll wake up and be like talking about blood and soil after a conversation with Richard Spencer. And so he is just a bit of a, I don't know what to call him, rage baiter, but definitely now construes himself as a critical Trump supporter. And I had him on, and again, just like I would with any other person in general, cordial conversation, but pushback. And, I shook his hand afterwards, and I think that people have this expectation, though, or a particular sore spot when it comes to certain people on the left from an electoral perspective that we can get into. But I think the sensitivities rise when it comes to people like the Vanguard, people like Hassan Piker, and people like, let me think of another one. Have you heard of Brianna?
Which is kind of wild, given the fact that my voting record is I voted for Hillary Clinton, I voted for Joe Biden, and then I voted for Kamala Harris. So like, I don't know why people get this like crazy idea that like we're somehow like it's impossible to work with us. Like just because we're vocal critics of some of the bad decisions the Democratic Party has made, like it would be very interesting. And it kind of is, I think, what's really put offish to people about the like establishment, insular, democratic, liberal groupthink, right? Where it's like there are so many people. Like 2-3 days ago, Gavin and I were at an ICE protest, right? And we're saying, get the fuck out of Kansas City, with a bunch of people who may have not even shown up to vote at all in November. A bunch of people who maybe have never participated in a general election in their lives. A bunch of people who probably thought it wasn't worth it to show up. But here they are. They're now mobilized. They're now ready to go. Those are people that need to be a part of our movement. So when you say who is a part of our movement, I think we need to embrace people, right? The Democratic Party loves to talk about being a big tent party, but usually they're talking about being a big tent party for people who went to college and for people who have a lot of money, right? We need to be a big tent party for people who are getting fucked by ICE. We need to be a big tent party for people who are really concerned for their neighbors. We need to be a big tent party for people who maybe did not understand the severity of the situation we were up against before, November of last year, or November of 2 years ago at this point, right? Because there was so much misinformation, right? We need to understand that people are awake now. They're ready to join our coalition, and that we can mobilize them because they're pissed off. It seems so silly to me to be like, 18 months ago, we had a really severe political disagreement over something that's really functionally irrelevant right now. Let's not work together at all to collaborate against this massive threat we're facing. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. I would much rather be like, right now we're facing the existential threat of the Donald Trump regime, the Fourth Reich. ICE is terrorizing our fucking communities. We have Gestapo in the streets. The Constitution is being shredded. My father, who's considered himself a Republican his entire life, texted me after that man was killed yesterday and said, I'm for the first time in my life afraid of the fact that we're going to lose our rights in this country. A veteran of the United States military, right? So things are changing right now. Our coalitions are changing, and we're redrawing the lines into people who believe America is a nation of laws, people who believe in the Constitution, people who believe in the vision of the founding fathers that we're, a melting pot society, and people who oppose that, and people who want to bring in fascism and totalitarianism. And I think that's the fight we're up against.
Gavin, I want to get your take before I respond to that.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Zach. I also think it's interesting that so many people that are on the more like, I'm a dedicated Democratic warrior and it's heresy to criticize Joe Biden. It seems like a lot of those people nowadays are increasingly voicing their frustrations with the way that the Biden administration handled Trump, and specifically the way that they faltered in their attempts to actually contain the threat that was Donald Trump and his movement. I mean, I see a ton of content from the whole Lib and Learn faction of content creators talking about how, Merrick Garland is a fucking disgrace, and how, Joe, and in retrospect, like Joe Biden and Merrick Garland allowed all of this to happen. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of what we were saying. Like, that's part of the reason why we were so critical of Joe Biden and the Democrats in the first place, and part of the reason why it feels like the analysis of a lot of progressives and more socialist types has come crystal clear, which is that, yeah, the Democrats not only did enable the rise of Trump, not only did they open the door to it, but they continue to enable it. The corporate Democrats basically just, voted and allowed the funding of ICE to go through to the degree to which Donald Trump wants it. I mean, this is crazy. And it feels like, now everyone's finally waking up to that because the reality of the situation is so obvious. But to Zach's point, yeah, there is a lot of liberals out there that, have been woken up. They've been radicalized. The I've Had It podcast ladies come to mind as a real sort of manifestation of this trend. Jennifer Welch talks a lot about how she voted for Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders. She kind of bought the MSNBC bullshit. She was a Cory Booker fan, all this kind of stuff. But now she's like, oh, wait, what the fuck? It was actually the progressives. It was actually the Bernie bros. It was actually the socialists that were 100% right about how it's this weak sauce, milquetoast corporate Democrat bullshit that actually totally enables fascism. Joe Biden sat there for 4 long fucking years and refused to really do anything serious about Trump. I mean, they had the Epstein files there. They could have released that. They could have exposed the fact that he's a goddamn pedophile. They didn't. And now he's taken over the country, and it seems like we're more and more a dictatorship with every passing day. So it seems like anyone who was criticizing Joe Biden and the fecklessness of his administration has been totally vindicated. And it seems like even the hardcore Democrat defending libs are now admitting it.
Yeah, so I got a lot of responses to that. The first is, I think a point of contact on this, unfortunately, might be to talk about a recent moment with Hassan. And I think that this will sort of crystallize where I think the libs are coming from. Because to be honest, I criticize a lot of Democratic leadership. Schumer, I think I've been saying for months and months and months and months, he needs to go. I've been talking shit about the 7 House members, this Tom Suozzi, Glusenkamp Perez, now I'm not forgetting Jared Golden, among others, who voted for the additional DHS funding. And I've taken shit with them being weak on the shutdowns and all that stuff. And so I understand criticism of Democrats, and I respect criticism of Democrats. I called Joe Biden's pardon of his son corrupt as shit. I said that he violated the law and by closing down the border illegally when he tried to do that when his bill didn't work. And then he just tried to usurp the law and basically cancel asylum. And it didn't seem like there were many Democrats who were willing to do that. Even though I didn't think that he did anything criminal with respect to the Her report, I still criticized his conduct with respect to the Her report. And so I have no problem with criticisms of Democrats. But I think the problem is calibration. And let me give you a point of contact. Hassan Piker goes to Minnesota. Great. Criticizing ICE. Great. Wonderful. Bringing attention to the fact, as you guys are, that DHS and more specifically ICE and CBP are acting like Gestapo thugs. Awesome. Has an interview. The interview asks a question about how are Democrats measuring up to the role? Offers criticism, some of it true. Democrats need to be stronger. Democrats need to be willing to fight more. But that is not couched with a critical phrase. And that critical phrase is the following. You need to support the Democratic Party in this context. Yes, it's true that our leadership is weak at times. And yes, it's true with particular members, they say shit that isn't either true or isn't wise or isn't good strat. But obviously, the Democrats are way superior on every level to the deprivations of the MAGA Republicans. Now, I respect your voting records. I respect the fact that you voted for the Democrats. But I think it's unconscionable, really, to, in this moment, continue to be unclear or at least sometimes equivocating or sometimes kind of gesturing at what I think most Democrats and even the base ones that you're referring to. And I have seen that trend. I'm not saying I haven't. You're right about the I've Had It girls and their, the based tweets from Kyle Kalinske. But it's the recognition.
To be fair, I haven't seen the the Hassan Piker statement that you're specifically talking about. I'd love to actually hear the quote from Hassan. Because I don't necessarily agree with everything that Hassan Piker says. We've criticized Hassan Piker on the show, and I feel like Zach and I do make it abundantly clear, including in the last election cycle, even when we had to support a fucking party that was committing a genocide. Even under those circumstances, we literally were like, "Yep, got to support Kamala, guys. There's no other fucking option. The Green Party is unserious. Fuck Jill Stein. Vote for Kamala Harris."
I want to be clear in terms of the third party stuff with you guys. I don't think that there can be any doubt that with respect to the Green Party shit, the Jill Stein stuff, I saw you guys talk about that stuff, and I'm not saying that you didn't. I'm not saying that you didn't say the Kamala Harris. I think I'm just trying to get you the feeling of what some libs and Democrats in my audience think is are these people committed to this project, the project of defeating it? Not necessarily you guys. Go for it, Zach. Sorry.
Yeah, so I could speak to that a little
Yeah.
bit, right? Because I understand that there is frustration that kind of like takes over your mind, and I'll use it for an example of the Vanguard, right? So
Mhm.
you have people in your audience right now who think that we're like Democrat haters, I would imagine, who think that we're like the devil and that we don't want anything good for the Democratic Party, right?
Yeah.
But for all of those people, there's also tons of people on the left who think that we're sellouts. They call us the shit lib guard. They talk about how because we supported Kamala Harris, we're genocide fucking supporters, talking about how we have blood on our hands, talking about how we're unserious, how we've sold every principle that we have, right? We really take shit from all sides. And I think that at least if anybody, wants to look at our record, you can be like, these are two guys that stand on their own feet. And we have always made it clear that, like, obviously we're going up against a criminal beyond the pale party when it comes to the Republican Party. And I think that I've even, made an effort to adjust my own personal commentary, right? Because I came up very insular in progressive politics. Gavin and I came up, we were in the shit, right? We were in the weeds. We had very, very niche political opinions and we built our show around that, right? And so we've always had a focus on independent, left wing, progressive media.
Sure.
And people are like, why do you guys talk about that all the time? And it's because it's our beat, right? Gavin and I didn't have the pedigree to come on here. Like, Pisco, you're a very educated guy. You're a lawyer. You're very well informed. Gavin and I were two guys in my bedroom. We thought, what do we know? We know about this very niche progressive scene that's happening right here. And we built our entire channel around it. And so people come on our channel and they're like, hey, it seems like you're talking a lot about this and not about this. That's totally true, right? It's kind of like going on to a sports show and being like, damn, they're really talking about the Chiefs a lot, or wow, they're really talking about the Patriots a lot. It's like, yeah, that's because that's what their show is about. But if you actually listen to our live streams, you'll hear the first 45 minutes of us going through the news of the day. You'll hear us talking about the fascist threat of the Donald Trump administration. You'll hear us affirm over and over and over again that the worst Democrat, the fucking dirt on the bottom of your shoe, I'm talking about a guy like Joe Manchin, who doesn't even call himself, I think he's officially an independent now, just like Kristen Sinema. A guy like that is immeasurably better. If we had President Joe Manchin, I would feel the urge to at least take a huge sigh of relief by a mile, right?
Yeah.
Because I would understand that there's not going to be lawlessness in the streets. I would understand that he's not going to be enriching himself to the tune of $1 billion off of a cryptocurrency scam with the special envoy to the Middle East sons, the Witkoff brothers. I would understand that we're not going to be doing all of these things. That's all clear. The Qatari jet, absolutely, right? We're not going to do abductions illegally in the middle of the night. We're not going to violate international law. We're not going to ruin America's standing by threatening to take over Greenland. We're not going to do a bunch of obnoxious tariffs that don't make any sense, right? Just so I can get a little insider trading bump from my homies as I crash the American dollar and try and buy up shit on the cheap, which is his plan. Right? You're going to get all of that analysis if you listen to the Vanguard, but it's also true. You are watching a podcast hosted by the last death rattle of the Bernie bro movement. That's us, right? And we don't make any apologies for that. That's our fucking politics. Medicare for all, no new wars, fucking Green New Deal, right fucking now. Raise the minimum wage. That's what we stand for, right? And so if a politician runs and they say, I don't fucking support that, then we say, hey man, that's a fucking problem. And when they do say, hey, man, I'm sorry, ICE isn't a state terror organization, Mr. Ben Shapiro. Let me kiss your ass. Oh, hey, Mr. Ben Shapiro, it's not a genocide in Gaza. Let me kiss your ass. I say, that's not presidential, and you don't represent me. And I don't care that you're the de facto presumed nominee because your values aren't compatible with mine. And so people might get their feathers ruffled and be like, he's on my team. Why did you say that? Because I care about values. I'm in the ethics business, okay? I don't care about whether or not people throw mud at me or tell me I'm a shit lib or tell me I have blood on my hands. I've already heard it before.
Well, I appreciate that answer. And to be honest, like, it's not just you guys who have been critical of Gavin Newsom at the start. I don't know if you recall, he did his podcast circuit with Charlie Kirk, with Steve Bannon, Michael Savage, some of these people.
Sloppy
And
Steve,
and both me and Josiah were not happy with how he conducted those. It reminded us a little bit of how Cenk Uygur in the initial run was talking to Charlie Kirk, indeed, at the, like, whatever the tour that they were doing was, America Fest or something, and he said, congratulations on a revolution, well done. So I have no problem whatsoever with criticisms of Democrats, so long as they're couched with that recognition. And to be honest with you guys, if I didn't feel that you guys did that, right, I think we'd have a different dynamic, and I think I would see you guys very differently. Do I agree with all your criticisms? No. But I don't agree with like all the criticisms or all the ideas of a lot of the people who I consider to be beneficial with respect to the harm reduction aspect of voting for Democrats. To say that, like, for example, I do think that Biden bears some responsibility for refusing to drop out. I don't think Biden should have interfered with the Department of Justice. It's funny you mentioned Merrick Garland. That's the one place where all the resistance libs hate me, because I still like defend what Merrick Garland did, notwithstanding the fact that Trump was able to not get any actual trial for the crimes that he definitely did. And so the disagreement part on issues of policy, Medicare for all, I'm in favor of universal health care. The disagreements on foreign policy stuff, that isn't what bothers me. What bothers me, or I think the audience, frankly, is when people, they perceive them as doing the false equivalence. Now, I don't think that you guys do that. Josiah doesn't think that you guys do that. However, there are some people on the left who do that. And there's this feeling of anger.
Are they bald and do they have a lip ring?
Wait, who are you referencing that?
I don't know. Are there a bunch of bald guys with lip rings? I thought it was just Hutch.
Oh, shit. Oh, no. I'm not talking about, my bad. I totally missed that. No, I think that Hutch is right when there are people like this. I mean, there are people who will die defending not voting for Hillary Clinton in 2016. You can't deny that, Zach. Those people exist, and they don't care the fact that it got us to where we are now.
You can always find examples of cringy people on the fringe of the left that are like, I'm a Green Party supporter till the day I die, or whatever. Like, obviously that's going to be the case no matter what era we're in, no matter how bad things get. Like, yeah, there's obviously going to be people like that on the fringes of the left that you can make fun of, that are just like autistically like pro third party.
Yeah,
like, yeah, of course you can do that.
No,
you can
yes,
make all the content you want.
I agree,
and like shame them
yes.
for not
let me give you what you want
for fucking Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, let me give you what you want. I don't think that the leftists cost Kamala the election. I think if you look at the empirics here, I don't think that the case is strong that the left, far left, abandoned Kamala to degrees that would affect the outcome of the election. I'm just not convinced by that empirical case, and I don't think that the left, by and large, are scuttling the chances of Democrats in this way. But we do want, and I think that a lot of people want, like, this feeling. It really is like a virtue signal a lot of the times, but I think it's worth it, at least for some people, to establish that.
We've dunked on that mentality endlessly. The black pilled people who just want to performatively, like Brianna Joy Gray comes to mind, acting like she's so morally superior over anyone who voted for Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or whatever. It's completely ridiculous. It was one thing to do it in like 2016 before Trump had actually been elected. Cards on the table. I voted for Jill Stein in 2016. As soon as Donald Trump became president, and specifically after January 6th, and I realized, like, oh shit, this is like 100% a fascist motherfucker. He will take over and take down this country if given the chance. After that, I was like, yeah, no, it's not worth, throwing my vote away again. It's actually worth supporting the Democrats. Obviously, Trump can't get reelected, yada, yada, yada. So, we've had these conversations at length on our show many times. It's something that I think, as Zach mentioned, we've kind of evolved on a little bit.
I think that that's fair. I think that Kyle Kalinske and Crystal Ball as well, they've made those kinds of statements where I really think that they're acknowledging that we can't live in this sort of false equivalence anymore. And I appreciate you saying that. Really, I do. And I think it's positive for everyone, because it's like, give a gift, get a gift. I was pissed at all the Mamdani holdouts when it came to the election here in New York for mayor. I endorsed him before the primary, but after the primary, when we're talking about comparing to Cuomo and the kind of attacks that Cuomo was levying, the servility to Trump, really, that seemed obvious on the horizon, I thought that was weakness and bullshit. But I will say, Mamdani didn't endorse Kamala in the run-up to the election. Now, I didn't hold that against him because I wanted to stick by that principle. But I do think that that's a kind of a sense of camaraderie, that we're going towards at least a similar goal in the short term. And that similar goal, I think, is the end of fascism in this country, or at least stopping it from taking hold. And I do actually think, Zach and Gavin, that you're with me on that goal, because I watch your content.
Oh, yeah.
I see when you criticize Cenk and Anna for this about face. And but that said, I think we also need to give credit where credit is due. And I guess that's my first transition into a recent statement from Anna Kasparian. I don't know if you're familiar with it, that basically she underestimated Trump. And I wanted to get your guys' take on that. Do you think that that's genuine? Cards on my table. I met Anna at Word War Debate. She seemed like a very nice person. And yeah, what do you think?
You were at that thing.
Yeah, it was like weird. There were like Proud Boys there and stuff. I'm sure there's dark money behind it, but it was actually a lot of fun. Putting that aside, but yeah, what do you think about this statement? And then also, I don't know if you watched the debate or a conversation between Crystal Ball and Cenk Uygur, in which Cenk Uygur seemingly concedes. He's like, we don't need the right-wing populists, we just need the independents. And I agree with that statement, but it seems to be counter to his position. So what do you think about this? Because I really value when Cenk and Anna are on like the right side and like pointed in the right direction. I think they can be assets. But you guys have been highly critical. So give me your take on that stuff.
I mean, I totally agree with you that I think they're a real powerhouse when they're actually fighting for the progressive left, as they did back in the OG Bernie era. That's when I started watching the Young Turks. That's when I really started getting into BreadTube, as it was called at the time, right? That's what got me in. That was my entry point to this whole entire world, really, was Kyle Kalinske and the Young Turks. So I know how effective they can be, which is why it was so heartbreaking to see this bizarre attempt at a right-wing, like Dave Rubin-esque grift pulled off, specifically by Anna, but also by Cenk. And yeah, I think they basically realized two things. One, that the right wing still views them as the Young Turks. No matter how much they pander to them, they're still going to remember all the clips and all the moments and the screaming at Alex Jones and the, you fat motherfucker, or whatever Anna said. You know what I'm saying? Like that's always going to be who they are to the right wing, no matter how much they pander. They've been doing that shtick for too long to really pivot in the way they thought they could. So I think for one, the pivot failed. And two, I do believe that when it comes to specifically Anna Kasparian and that statement she put out the other day, I do genuinely believe that even she is a little bit shocked by just how fascist Donald Trump and his administration this time around has been with the Gestapo on the streets. I really do think she was a little bit in denial in the lead up to the election, and that's not to let her off the hook,
sure,
or to justify it. I do think it was a very financially motivated grift, but I do think that part of the reason she was able to go down that road in the first place is because she had kind of convinced herself subconsciously. You see this a lot, this sort of denial that the worst is about to happen. And she was like, fuck it. Yeah, I'm just going to be in denial. I'm going to put my head in the sand and try to make some money. I think now she is, genuinely like, oh, fuck, like this is crazy. I don't like this. This is very uncomfortable to me. I can't defend it. I simply can't defend it.
So you haven't seen that same pivot from Cenk, though, right? I mean, you haven't seen the same kind of statement from Cenk, who was maybe less
admitting that he was wrong.
Yeah. Or I haven't.
I mean,
seen
I think as you mentioned in the crystal ball discussion, he kind of began to admit. I think Cenk is an egotist and he's a narcissist, and it's really hard for either of them to apologize. So I wouldn't be shocked if neither of them ever truly give a legitimate, full-throated apology. Right. I wouldn't be shocked, but I do think that they're starting to be a lot more critical on Trump's. They're not pandering to the MAGA right. They're not going on shows like Tim Pool and Glenn Beck and PBD as much. So I think they've just realized that it was actually a bad idea to try to pull off this grift. And actually the money is really in bashing Trump, being an anti-Trump show. Look at Midas Touch. Look at all these other networks, which have really kind of taken their place as like the number one, like anti-Trump network online.
Zach, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Gavin said. Obviously, look, Gavin and I have made our beat, as I was talking about, covering independent news, right? Covering people who we think are full of shit. There's tons of them all over the internet. We focus on the progressive left because we like to sweep our own side of the street. So we've talked about the Jimmy Dores. We've even talked about Dave Rubin, who came from the Young Turks, right? Something a little fishy over there in the water. We've talked about, we've locked horns with Brianna Joy Gray, who's already come up on here. We've locked horns with everybody over here at the Vanguard, right? We like to be on our own island. We're in Kansas City. Gavin and I are boys, and, we just like spit. And that's how we do this thing. But I also think we take our job really seriously, right? So for people who don't know anything about our show, we don't take $1 from anybody corporate. We are 100% sponsored by the people who do our Patreon, and that's so that we can feel comfortable calling balls and strikes, right? We don't want to have anybody have the impression that we're like in the corner for anybody. And so obviously we've gone after the Young Turks, I think rightly, right? But when we reacted to that video of Anna Kasparian apologizing, we even got people in our own comment section breaking Gavin's balls because he was too quick to forgive her, saying, look, man, we need all of the people on our side that we can get. If she understands that Donald Trump is a threat, she has 6 million subscribers in the palm of her hand, and she's going to go live in front of them, and we need them talking about how ICE is fascist. She was wrong. It's okay if you were wrong. Stand up now. Get in the fucking streets. Oppose this while we still have our Constitution. That's imperative. And a lot of people were like, why are you guys giving her the benefit of the doubt? And we're like, we're not giving her the benefit of the doubt. We're giving her a path to walk down where she can start to rehabilitate her image, yes, but also to do propaganda on the correct side, right? People don't like it if you call your side propaganda, but she needs to do outreach for the left, for the Democratic Party. And also, even before this, came out, right? Gavin and I, we always try and be fair, right? Here are 2 of our segments that we did within the last 2 weeks about Anna Kasparian. Are you ready, Pisco?
Yep, I'm ready.
Anna Kasparian, capital letters, wipes the floor with capital letters, brain dead. Right-winger Pearl Davis in live, in-person debate. 30,000 people watched this. Give credit to fucking Anna Kasparian right there. That's before her apology video, okay? Anna Kasparian, curb stomps, brain-dead CNN panelist in heated exchange over Trump. All right? We are not afraid to give anybody credit. You'll see people, and you'll be like, I thought you guys were beefing with them. And we give them credit. It's because we need people on the left firing at the correct target. Fuck everything that happened before Donald Trump was reelected. This time, it's water under the bridge to me. We need to be marching in the right fucking direction. And so, of course, I think if the Young Turks are sincere, I really have my doubts about the fact that they are sincere, then I would go after that. And if anybody, is curious about why we might hold these doubts about Young Turks, I would tell you to look into their finances, right? Look about the fact that they're doing ad reads for Chapter Medicare Advisory. They used to be a Medicare for All show. That's one of the things that drew me and Gavin to them. Now they don't support a public option, and now they just support negotiating drug prices collectively. And you can watch them adjust their commentary over time as they took this money from JD Vance and Vivek Ramaswamy. So I would never take money from any of these fuckers, but you would have to cut off my hands before I would accept money from JD Vance or Vivek Ramaswamy, the most disgusting people in all of Ohio, the shittiest state in America.
Or Teal.
So 100%. It's not going to happen. And Gavin and I aren't going to do ad reads for any of these fuckers like Andrew Yang. We're not going to rename our studio the Poly Market Studio. And I also think it's a bit disingenuous for the Young Turks to come out and present themselves as independent media. I know we all have our own definition of independent media, but most independent media hasn't done multiple rounds of venture capital funding. They did a seed round, a Series A, a Series B, and a Series C. They've raised about $30 million in venture capital investment. That's not advertisement generated. That's all the while they're saying, we want to represent you. Send us $5 a month. Send us $15 a month out of your piggy bank. Send us $370,000 to build the studio that we're going to auction off to Peter Thiel to get you addicted to gambling, to fuck up our entire economy and our politics. In this
have you seen them
right?
betting on war gains in Ukraine and betting on just insane shit? Yeah.
This is the real thing that Anna Kasparian did, right? We gave her flowers. Let's talk about some of the bad things she did. She worked with the people at Polymarket to get this random ass bet placed on Polymarket after they bitched and moaned about it on TYT. After the Polymarket sponsorship came, they started spreading this lie that the Majority Report with Sam Cedar was funded with Kamala Harris ad campaign dollars and that they were funded secretly by the Kamala Harris administration. They even put a bet up on Polymarket. Did they do this paid ad read for Kamala Harris? To be fair,
that bet ended up totally humiliating the Young Turks because only 14% of people bet that what Anna said was true. So I actually don't think Anna was behind that. I think the Polymarket people just put that up there and then it ended up making them look terrible.
It was Anna's lie that went straight from the TYT studios onto Polymarket. So maybe she didn't directly have a hand in it, but it's sure shit came from her mouth to the Polymarket studios. And then, as Gavin pointed out, was a tremendous embarrassment and then did not cash because there was no evidence. And I guarantee you it's not fucking true that the Majority Report of all places was doing paid ad reads for Kamala Harris.
Yeah, that was so ridiculous. I totally forgot about that. But the fact that she made up that lie is one of the lowest lows in her entire track record of dishonesty.
And those beefs are probably still there, right? Like the Emma Vigland, the Anna Kasparian.
She has yet to apologize.
Okay, yeah. Well, listen, I think
people specifically.
I think that I would sooner have no beefs and have everyone just have one common project. Last couple things before we get to ICE and some of the stuff that Trump is doing, because I do want to talk about that. But last point on infighting and actually funding. Now that you brought it up, another point of contact which brought I think some scorn from certain libs, certain resistance libs or whatever, the chorus media stuff. Okay, so here's an example of I agree with Kalinsky for creators who are able to do it. and you guys are able to do it, and Kyle's able to do it. The gold standard is what? Default ads, they say, and memberships from directly from your audience. That is the gold standard.
And just for posterity, the first 4 years of the show, I worked as a bartender. So it's not just like, hey, we lucked into this. Like, I just do, for everybody to know, like, we do not come from money. We are dudes from Kansas City, like, just for all the posterity.
No, this has been recorded in posterity. It's true. I was also a bartender, by the way. I was while I was studying for law school, I was in my like LSAT books in the bar, and it was so yeah. I have fond memories of.
Are you Peruvian or Chilean?
Peruvian, yeah, Peruvian. So my family, actually, it wasn't directly because, but one of the reasons why my family moved here was because of the Shining Path in Peru, which was this Maoist guerrilla group that was like having bombs in Lima and all this stuff. But I was born in the United States. So yeah, that heritage, a lot of my family's still in Peru. But yeah, Pisco's, there's a big fight between Chileans and Peruvians over who, and they both have their own brands of Pisco. Okay, but talking about lefty infighting, the Chorus Media stuff, I think it's valuable to disclose. And I think that the people who took that money should have disclosed that they're getting money from Chorus. And I recognize that what's preferable for independent media, for influencers and stuff, is to be able to fund based on default ads where there's not that close connection with the sponsor of the money and plus the memberships that are actually, being facilitated by big corporations, but we think that there's less of a connection there. What the fuck is the big deal? I mean, we're all pushing in the right direction. Don't we need people like Dave Pacman? Don't we need people like Brian Tyler Cohen? These kinds of motherfuckers?
Wait, what?
Like, for the wine moms? Why
we need people like David Pacman?
People who are going to speak to the wine moms, to different audiences against Trump. I mean, you laugh, but these kinds of people, these influencers are valuable.
There's very possibly, I think that there are many versions of David Pacman which exist out there who don't defend Israel, pretend to not know what AIPAC is, defend Joe Biden, shake the hands of a fucking war criminal while you smile like a giddy little boy. I think there are lots of alternate universes out there where there are people that can fill the world or fill the shoes of David Pacman and do exactly what he does without having to also besmirch the name of the entire fucking left in such horrific ways. David Pacman, I can understand saying Brian Tyler Cohen kind of appeals to like your average centrist or something. You should have started with him because David Pacman, in my opinion, is exactly the example of why the chorus money is a net negative for the left. I think David Pacman is smug. I think he's off-putting. When he even talks to someone who disagrees with him, he can't contain his just, palpable fucking smugness. I think he's a terrible look for the left. And the fact that whoever's behind Chorus, this dark money fucking slush fund, the fact that they were selecting untalented hacks like David Pacman, who literally put the Democratic Party back a decade, the fact that they were selecting him to funnel this fucking money to is all the proof in the world why it shouldn't exist. Because I don't trust these dark money puppeteers to pick the right content creators to fund. Why did they hit us up? Why did
but isn't it a fight against fascism or not? Is it a fight against fascism or not? I mean, I respect the fact that
Israel is fascist, supporting fascism, and
we got to put on
not know what AIPAC
we got to put on our own mask before we help other people. I mean, we will do nothing.
We give them money all the fucking time. What are you talking about? Do you know how much money we give to Israel?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, in order to help the Palestinian people, in order to be able to stop doing the kind of shit.
Oh my, dude, we seriously disagree about this, Pisco. We're gonna have to let's talk about that chorus thing because it's really easy to be like, shouldn't we all fight?
Wait, what did I just say that you disagree with?
Permission before they can interview. Wait, Pisco, how come they have to get permission before they can be interviewed by people? Right? How come they have to get permission before they can talk to a politician?
I think that's one. I think that's one reading of the contract, and I don't think it's a necessary reading of the contract. And
I think they released their own contracts if that one was wrong.
So I'm not sure exactly what was allowed to be disclosed with respect to the contract.
And they did
I don't know what's allowed to be.
Company of Condé Nast because they didn't have shit on Taylor's reporting. Look, I've beefed with Taylor Lorenz. Gavin's beef to fuck with Taylor Lorenz. Go watch our last conversation with her. The reason that Condé Nast didn't get sued by any of these progressive folks because of shoddy reporting was because it wasn't shoddy reporting, and the reason they didn't put out that contract is because
I'm not saying that.
The shit they were
I'm not saying that anything Taylor Lorenz said was defamatory. I'm not saying that anything that Taylor Lorenz wrote would have fit the standard for defamation or that it's actionable under the law. But that's not the question. The question is whether or not we think that it's valuable having voices that think differently and that are funded through other mechanisms. Now, not every funding mechanism I'm going to be okay with.
Paying people to disagree with me. If I know you're getting paid to disagree with me, I might as well just not fucking talk to you. That's how I feel.
Also, it's one thing to take, like, speaking of Taylor Lorenz, as Taylor Lorenz talks about, she's on this like Piero Midyar journalist thing where he funds some of her reporting. That's totally disclosed. It's not dark money. I do think there's an issue taking random dark money that's distributed in this slush fund to people who there's no oversight over. There's no, democratic process to select who gets this money. So it ends up going to Zionists like David fucking Pakman, who smears the left, who defends a genocide, who lies to his audience by pretending.
Are you willing to work with liberal Zionists? Are you willing to work with liberal Zionists to end fascism in America? Sure.
Obviously, I'm willing to work with all sorts of people. I support Ro Khanna doing a bill with Marjorie Taylor Greene or Thomas Massey or whatever. I support working with people when it's actually effective. What I have said multiple times is that I don't think it's effective to insulate yourself in this world of Democratic influencers who just jerk off and make propaganda for a genocidal fucking administration, which then directly led to the fucking election of Donald Trump. Defending all of the worst aspects of Joe Biden is what led to Donald Trump, because guess what? Constructive criticism, it's called constructive because, yeah, it actually makes the thing you're criticizing better. It's not needless. It's not hateful. What we do is not just criticizing the Democrats because it makes us feel morally superior. No, we're giving them pointers on how to fucking win. If Joe Biden / Kamala Harris had a different opinion on Gaza, if they had not taken David Pakman's advice, we might be in a very different fucking country right now. But a lot of people elected Donald Trump because they were disgusted by what Joe Biden did. My mom voted for Democrats her entire life and sat out the last election because she was so fucking disgusted by the fact that her party was funding a genocide, the party that she swore loyalty to her entire fucking life. She said, I can't do it. I can't stomach it. And I don't blame her, even though I voted for the goddamn Democrat and I sat here and supported Kamala Harris. It does fucking disturb me that I had to do that fucking effort on behalf of a candidate committing a goddamn genocide who wouldn't even let a Palestinian speak at the DNC. So yeah, I do think these are real issues to raise. And no, I don't approve of someone getting $5,000 in dark money a month to celebrate genocide and to lie to their fucking audience. So much so that Donald Trump gets elected. I just think it's crazy to defend that.
So I think that I think I'll say that the disclosure aspect of it, I totally agree, ought to be disclosed by creators. I'm not sure that there's a basis to say that they were paid to do Zionism specifically, because that sort of implies a contractual expectation to support Israel.
I didn't say that. I'm saying the fact that they gave money to someone who was supporting that is problematic. Yeah. So the fact that they were doling out that money to people whose job it is to defend fucking Zionism and the policies of Joe Biden. Yeah, I think that's problematic. And it's actually counterproductive as far as the goals that we both support.
I guess I'll first ask you guys, just a genuine question. Do you think that the position on Gaza was like a but for, or at least significant cause of the defeat of Kamala Harris in the election?
Yes, I think it's maybe the number one issue. As I said, I know a lot of people personally that would never even question voting for another party that wasn't the Democrats. They had voted Democrat loyally, blue no matter who. And then for the first time, they were like, nope, fuck it. They could bear with what happened to Bernie and his movement. They could deal with the fucking destruction of the fucking, movement that could have stopped Trump in the first place, Bernie. They could deal with that, but they couldn't deal with the fucking genocide. I genuinely think, in addition to the war in Ukraine popping off and some of the handling of that, yeah, it was this feeling that we voted for Biden to get back to normalcy, and now he's fucking doing wars like he's George Bush in the mid 2000s. Like, why the fuck are all this blood on the Democrats' hands? I think that was a huge reason, because yeah, Democratic voters actually do care about humanity. They aren't Republicans. They actually do care about suffering of innocent fucking people. They hate it. And yeah, for Joe Biden to do that, for him to take the advice of idiots like David Pakman and Brian Tyler, I don't know if it was Brian Tyler Cohen, but there was David Pakman's fucking ex-producer.
Yeah, his ex-producer
came out and it spilled the tea about how these ghouls got together and all decided to shut the fuck up about AIPAC, to not criticize Joe Biden on this issue, which then again enabled Kamala Harris to take that advice from her little bubble of fucking jerk-offs who just kept saying, oh, it's fine, stick with the plan. And then, yeah, she lost because Trump was able to pretend to be the peace candidate. And even though we were screaming at the top of our fucking lungs, he's not the peace candidate, he's going to make this infinitely worse, a bunch of people bought it.
Zach, do you agree that Gaza was a major reason why Kamala lost?
Oh, I don't think that it's really up for debate. I think there's a reason why the Democratic Party didn't reveal their internal, autopsy, right? They know. The Democratic Party knows what's causing their problems. The Democratic Party knows what's running the base away. The Democratic Party knows what's popular. And if you guys need to know how I know that, look at the candidate of Ro Khanna. Look at the Congressman Ro Khanna, soon to be candidate Ro Khanna. That guy knows what's fucking popular. And I don't know if I can believe anything that he says, but I know that he's looked at the polling. I know that he looks at what the country says right now, and he says, hammer the Epstein files, fuck ICE, that guy needs to go to jail, Medicare for all, we need to get our money out of Israel and invest in America. I mean, if you looked at a spreadsheet of what polls popular with regular ass people who need to show up and vote, grocery prices are too expensive. He's saying all that stuff. So it really is hard for me to believe that the Democratic Party just has no idea what would be popular. And I think Gavin hits the nail on the head when he says that it may not be, oh, it was all about Gaza, but because of Gaza, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz were unable completely to portray themselves as a peace option. They were unable to portray themselves as diplomats. They were unable to portray themselves as people who were going to bring solutions, because we all know they weren't. They fucking came out and told us they weren't going to do anything different on Israel. Were you in Chicago for the Democratic convention?
Oh, sure, I wasn't. No.
Gavin and I were there. We were very excited. We were like, you know what, guys, let's go ahead. We'll make our voices heard. We're going to demonstrate. This is going to be good for the Democratic Party. We're going to be stronger together, and we're going to march on to defeat Donald Trump. Do you know what the vibes were like by the end of the DNC Pisco? Absolute fucking dog shit. Okay, it was terrible. Everybody felt embarrassed. Everybody felt fucked over. Everybody felt like, why did we fucking come here and invest in this party? The Gen Z generation said, I'm sorry, but if this is politics, it's not for me, because you have told me that the number one thing that I care most about is irrelevant to you. You shoved my face in shit. You said, fuck you. All right, that's how everybody felt. You don't win elections like that, guys. You don't win elections like that, guys. You win elections by making people feel good, and that's what Donald Trump was able to do because of all those failures.
Well, the reason I sort of resist the impulse that Gaza or the issue of Israel played a determinant role in the election is precisely because I think the empirical basis for that isn't founded, and also because I think the left, by and large, came through for Kamala. And I think if what you're describing is true, I think it would mean that the left is the reason that Kamala lost, because it's the left that would have therefore sat out.
I think you and I define left differently. I think that you're talking about this mobilized, active left. I'm talking about human beings. I'm talking about people that I know from bartending, people who are like, fuck that, dude, I'm not doing that. I don't care what you say. I'm not doing that. I'm talking about people who I know who are just regular people who don't have a D or an R next to their name. They just have a driver's license, and they have to get reminded to be registered to vote about 6 months out because Kansas City doesn't have same-day voter registrations. I know because I'm
the
like,
Muslim community, which the Democrats have taken for granted for so long. Yeah, of course, them defecting cost Kamala Harris the election. Look at Michigan.
Yeah,
talking about here.
I'm not convinced that the Michigan votes would have been decisive with respect to. I understand the shift was huge in the Michigan, and it's like if you look at Biden's numbers in 2020 versus Kamala's 2024, no doubt about that whatsoever. I just don't think it's a determining factor. In the election.
I also think it's worth pointing out that regardless of Kamala's message on Gaza, I'm not saying that's the only reason why Donald Trump won.
Okay.
I think that there's a chance that if a better, more charismatic Democrat than Kamala fucking Harris had been the nominee, they could have had the exact same position on everything, but still beat Trump just because they were a more talented politician than Kamala Harris. So just to be clear, I'm not totally boiling this down to Gaza. I think
you think it's a significant, substantial thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a significant, substantial thing, partially because Kamala Harris is so bad at communicating, because she's such a terrible politician that she can't even, work her way out of the situation. Like a more talented politician would be able to speak outside of both sides of their mouth and kind of, promise people what they want. But they could have had the same essential politics as Joe Biden / Kamala Harris and just been a better orator. I mean, look at Obama. Obama's the best example of this ever. He promised people that he was going to end the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, and that he was this pro-peace guy. Like, I'm not saying Kamala Harris actually had to mean any of it. I'm not saying the Democrats actually had to mean any of it. But yeah, Obama is proof that if you even just pretend to be in favor of peace and against these fucking stupid bullshit wars,
that would have assuaged you. That would have assuaged you if you thought that they were being insincere, because they were kind of.
I'm saying that I just said from a purely like political
from a pragmatic
perspective, not me.
Okay.
It's regardless of what I think about it. I can see through politicians, I think, a lot better than your average person, right? I think if Obama was running right now, and if I was 27 years old, which I currently am, in 2008, I think I would have been smart enough to say, hey, look, Obama's taking all of his money from fucking Wall Street. I can see that this guy's going to be a phony. Obviously, I'm going to vote for him over John McCain, but he's not going to do all this shit. He's not going to be the next FDR. I would have been able to deliver that analysis. But in retrospect, there's no denying that Obama was a mastermind, a genius political operative, and a great orator. And just by pretending to be against the wars, yeah, 100%. And again, just by pretending to be against the wars that George Bush had started, he was able to sail into office. The dude won fucking red states. It was crazy, right?
Well, so he withdrew from he withdrew from Iraq, and Biden later withdrew from Afghanistan. I mean, I don't think that it was just.
We still have troops in Iraq. For what it's worth, there's like 258 troops in Iraq.
Sure, yeah, I should say the major operations.
No, we haven't. We still occupy that country, so they don't have like freedom from American regime.
I just mean what's termed the Iraq War and the tens of thousands of troops that de-escalated. To be specific,
he also surged it first. To be specific, though.
Correct. Yeah. And they obviously was given a Nobel Peace Prize, which he didn't deserve. I mean, I have plenty of criticisms of Obama. Just a final point on the infighting and all that stuff. I want to be clear. Like, I don't think Democrats should take AIPAC money because AIPAC, in addition to their policies, is supporting MAGA Republicans in this fucking country, including Donald Trump. Like, why the fuck should Democrats work with them? I want to be clear that, I don't think America should be giving money to Israel at all, given their interference and given their conduct and what I've think has now been established as a genocide. And so that's my position. That said, you have to work with liberal Zionists. And it is the case that to defeat fascism, the clear and present danger in this country, and I think that you probably agree with this, we need to actually shame and coerce and get, when I say coerce, I don't mean wrongfully. I just mean like we need to persuade the people who are disgusted, such as the people that you mentioned, to stomach it anyway for the benefit of their countrymen. And notwithstanding the fact that Kamala sounded, because she was hamstrung, I think, by Biden, and because Biden refused to get out of the race early and there was not a process, notwithstanding that, put their disgust aside to do what's in the best interest, not just of the American people, but for the Palestinian people. And we need your help to do that. And I know that you didn't
do what.
Yes, no, I agree with that. And that's why at bottom, Josiah and I think that we need to have allies to do that kind of work. But I don't think that we can have any more of these results anymore. Like, we can't have another Trump. I don't know how much more of this country can survive.
I'm genuinely interested in your opinion on this, Pisco, because last time I think it was the last time we chatted, you gave me some genuine, a kernel of hopium that I still hang on to, which is that Trump is not serious enough. He's not competent enough to actually pull off a straight up fascist dictatorial takeover. Do you actually think that we're going to have another serious free and fair election where there'll be a chance to take down Trump?
Yes, I do. I do think that.
I'm going to hang on to that. I'm going to hang on to that.
Here's the hopium, guys. Here's the hopium, in my opinion. Number one, Trump is ailing physically, and there is no set and convincing plan for his successor. It's by inertia going to be probably J.D. Vance, but there's no core, there's no ideological bedrock, and he's beatable 100%. As you said, he's beatable by people with aura who you might think, and listen, like I said, criticized Gavin Newsom. I don't trust Gavin Newsom, but someone like Gavin Newsom, AOC, these people have aura in Riz. I'm just talking about the aura thing. I'm not comparing them in any other respect. That I think can crush someone like JD Vance. And you see, he tweets like he talks.
JD Vance?
Correct. Absolutely mog them. And even like the Groypers, I don't know if you saw this. They were like, they were all standing Gavin because he's got this like beautiful family and all this shit.
It's so fucked up.
Yeah.
And here I am. I'm like, I don't know. I hate his stupid little outfit. He looks like a rich kid that I would have hated growing up.
I think he looks like an orthodontist. Like, I had this orthodontist when I was growing up who was real kind of a fake, phony guy. Like, he was super nice, but in that phony way. That's what Gavin Newsom reminds me of. But I do agree that he's a better politician than Kamala or Hillary was. Like, if Gavin Newsom had been the nominee in the last election, I don't think Trump would be in power right now. I do agree with you that he's a much more sophisticated politician than some of these other corporate Democrats who share his ideology. And even though he's definitely not my pick, and I'll be campaigning full-throatedly against him in the primary, if he's the nominee, then I do think that, he'll fucking destroy J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio.
And you'll support him.
The fuck.
And then I'm happy to hear that. No,
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And I think that's there's like different formulations of the question, because I did want to, at some point when we're near the end, I wanted to ask you a bunch of questions, and there's formulations of that question that I asked.
There's only one guy I won't vote for. There's only one guy I won't vote for. If they give the guy, if they give it to this one guy, I'm back into the warm.
Don't say Hutch.
Of the Green Party.
Don't say Hutch.
No.
Who is
if
it?
they nominate, there's one guy, and I think it would just be a disaster for the Democratic Party. And maybe I would be like, fuck, if we find ourselves in this reality.
Can I try to guess?
Everybody will be like,
give me two guesses. Give me two guesses. All right.
Pick.
Fuck. Shit. All right. Is he a Zionist?
Oh, big time.
I think I know who one of them. I think I know.
He's the only guy that I would just be like throwing up if I had to go to the fucking voting booth and be like, this fucking guy, like I'm gonna be wearing fucking spaghetti
Is it
all over
Buttigieg?
a white t-shirt. No, I'd vote for Buttigieg.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like it. I would make jokes about how I just voted for a cheese-eating rat bastard, but I wouldn't fucking not do it.
Is it Josh Shapiro?
Josh Shapiro is the
Why?
one fucking guy.
That's what I thought.
Why?
Because of the murder cover-up. Because of the murder cover-up. The insane murder cover-up. Read about Josh Shapiro's murder cover-up. That's insane. Pisco, we'll have to do a part 2 where we dissect the murder.
Yeah, we have to do that.
You're a real lawyer, so you can tell me about it. The murder cover-up is crazy. And I'm like, oh.
Did you see Cenk like
Even Kamala
wanted?
was so repulsed by him.
Well, I seen that reporting that behind the scenes that it wasn't necessarily the best interaction between them. But he's massively popular in Pennsylvania. I have to say that. Okay, but so you're telling us that both of you that you're committed to voting for the Democratic nominee in 2028. Barring some insane circumstance like. I don't know.
We're going to support the Democrat. I won't let it be Josh Shapiro. I will stay up every single day and call every single person and text I will personally put my thumb on the scale, Barack Obama, South Carolina call style, and be like, let's get this
and folks,
Hey,
I'm not addressing the Shapiro thing. We're gonna have a separate conversation about the Shapiro thing. I know about the allegations, but I just want to bog us down right now. So people in the chat are like, fucking so just be chill on that. So we'll definitely have a conversation about that, because I would definitely support Shapiro if that happened. If he were the nominee, he wouldn't be my first choice as well. My first choice would be, I know that he's Rizless. Chris Murphy or AOC are my top.
Themselves 5, 6, 7 times when they're committing suicide. First in the neck, then in the
Okay,
eyeball,
all right.
cut off your wiener just for good measure. That's how most people kill themselves. Right?
I appreciate the shit, but I wanted to talk about the hopium a little bit.
Sorry.
No, I know. You're not making my job. I'm trying. What I'm trying to do is to show that there are lefties who are black pill lefties, who are third party dead enders, who are false equivalence people. And I don't think you guys are that. Yeah. And I understand the Shapiro memes and all that stuff, but I truly do think, and so does Josiah, we think that you guys will understand harm reduction, and you understand, and you've gotten shit for it. So I'm not saying that that's not true. I want to give a little bit more.
We'll understand harm reduction as soon as those chorus checks hit the bank account. Then I'll happily support Josh Shapiro. And,
they weren't. It wasn't like conditioning on their particular messaging. There's no evidence of that shit. I know. But like, not everyone can be as popular as you guys. Not everyone can be as popular as Kyle Kalinske.
If the Kremlin comes with a serious offer, maybe we'll be MAGA by the time the next.
Wait, are you guys like pro? What are your takes on Ukraine again? I forgot.
Oh, I was joking. Like if they wanted us to go MAGA, we would get a check from the Kremlin. And I was trying to think of the alternative.
Well, at this point, it's like all the
going back to the APAC way.
Yeah. At this point, it's all like the oil deals that they're making on crypto and like energy and shit. Okay, the last point on the hopium, then
other shit,
and then we'll get into the ICE stuff and the Trump stuff. Legally, the states are empowered to run the elections. Now, I understand that Trump doesn't give a fuck about the law, but I think it's just there are too many cogs in the machine. It's too difficult to fight on all these different fronts, and he's taking every single battle, even useless battles. And internally, even on policy, there's disagreements between think about international policy between the Marco Rubio wing, the JD Vance wing, what's going on with the Defense Department. So I think that they're not as organized as they need to be, and they haven't worked as fast as they need to, and they're running through the motions. And this is how I would synthesize it before. It's not that the American people are ideologically committed to democracy. That was the unfortunate truth of the 2024 election. They're not ideologically committed to it. I think that they are physiologically and by virtue of ritual committed to democracy. That they like democracy because that's just what they do. They go to the polls on a given day, and even the commentators, right? They set up watch parties And it's almost just like a response because it's fun for them to do. It's fun to have these debates for them, and they're used to doing it. And if you took that away from them, if you said, actually, you can't go to the polls this day, I think that people would be upset by it. Not necessarily because they're ideologically committed to democracy, but because that's what they've always done, and that's what their bodies do. They physically walk to the polls, and they watch the election streams, and they wait for it's exciting for them, and that's what I think is the ultimate hopium.
Right. No, I totally agree with that. But the people aren't the ones who are going to make the decision. And what I'm ultimately worried about is not them just being like, the elections are canceled, but them having elections and then just basically rigging them and being like, we won, even though we didn't.
But it's tough to do in these states. And if we're with respect to 2028, a lot of the states that will be decisive are going to be run by Democrats. And in 2026, indeed, I think it's going to be the same sort of deal. And more to the point, like think about the fact that they're going to court at all to like defend their policies. Like, why are they in court even putting down a reason for this or that, or fighting all these different injunctions? There's lawyers who are in the department or are working for the administration that have to justify their payroll. And so they go through the motions. And even though they say bullshit in court, that doesn't make any sense. They're more worried about advancement, making a name for themselves. And that, fortunately for the country, and unfortunately for the authoritarian ambitions of Trump, causes them to work within the system by which they're rewarded internally in terms of employment, in terms of raises, in terms of profile. And so everyone is fighting for that. And you can even see, like, in 6 months, half the people in administration are going to be worried about 2028 and have their foot out the door. And so, yeah, that's the hopium, is that the kind of more provincial, the more local, the more employment rationales are what's going to be motivating both the administration and the people.
Well, I'm genuinely glad to hear that perspective, because I definitely hope you're right. I'm going to choose to believe you are.
Yeah. I just want to ask one quick follow-up, before we move on, because I think this would be a place of harmonious agreement. Who do you think, if anyone, because I think that obviously this is America and there's a little bit of hopium in this because of the way that we've always conducted ourselves, right? But I think that it's clear to most people, and I'm imagining your audience as well, that we've reached a new level of criminality from the executive branch. Sure. Do you think there is a candidate, and if you think there's more than one, who do you think is the most likely to follow through with putting Trump in jail? And even if you think that Donald Trump is too old and that the trial would take too long, who do you think is the most likely to actually follow through that? I don't have to explain to you as a lawyer why it would be important to follow through with everything, even if he himself will never spend a day behind bars, he gets house arrested and then dies, whatever. The other people following all of those trails saying, hey, if you ever try this shit again, it is considered now settled law that it's illegal, and we have this protocol in place to make sure that you will no longer stay in power. You're not going to weaponize these things that are meant to keep our country safe and, invert it and use it to terrorize, the domestic population, etc. Yeah. Because I will tell you, all right, not to expose my inner shit lib to any radicals watching, but I will tell you that would excite me as a voter. The candidate that comes out and says, this guy is going to fucking jail, and I don't care. Like, there was
it's my number one issue.
Eric Swalwell, who I dunked on. Yeah, Eric Swalwell was like, ICE is out of California if I get elected governor. So, like, who do you think does that?
I actually don't think it's Gavin, even though Gavin is the most, like, kind of talking that way in some respects. I think that he might. I actually think it's AOC. I know that he's probably not going to run, and he probably doesn't have the risk for it, or Chris Murphy. And the reason I think that is because they just seem
Chris Murphy's a curveball.
I hope that I just wish that he were more, like, exciting for people. Maybe he just needed to be a little bit more handsome. Yeah, exactly. Because that guy's awesome. That guy's fucking awesome. And he understands the corruption of the administration in a way, like the big picture, like, take a step back. Why is Trump even doing this at all? And I have to think that someone who understands that, I think he would be among the more likely to actually hold them accountable. It's my number one issue, Zach. Holding these people accountable, punishment, and structural reforms, that for me is a precondition to the kind of agenda of lowering affordability costs, healthcare, all that stuff. Because unfortunately, without that stuff, we're never going to have the Supreme Court sign off on certain legislative accomplishments, et cetera, et cetera.
I think you're totally correct.
Yeah. And
so 100% agreement there.
And I think that someone like AOC also has been calling out all the corruption all the time in an unapologetic way against Trump. And she, I think, looking to the example, and I wanted to ask you guys about Mamdani, how you think he's doing so far, of him like hitting the ground running. That's what we need. We need people who want to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
And I think those are two people who would and wouldn't sort of be caged in by this like better angel type situation. We need punishment. And Gavin Newsom, he seems to be like too nicey sometimes with these other folks who are MAGA.
Yeah, totally. No, I think Zoran has actually walked that line perfectly, because obviously there was the sort of famous photo op with Donald Trump in the White House where he basically charmed Trump and, prevented Trump from standing in his way. So he's smart and he's savvy, and he's not just out here like scoring points for the sake of scoring points against the right. Like, he is above all concerned with his constituency and with delivering on the promises. And that's part of the reason why he's been able to swiftly deliver on so many promises already. Making those alliances where it's smart with Democrats like Kathy Hochul. I mean, there's an example of what you were talking about.
Yes.
Sometimes, yes, the left, the progressives, they do have to, out of necessity, ally with corporate shit libs.
And I said Hochul should step down. I just want to be clear, and this is, I think, a position a lot of resistance, sorry to interrupt you, that liberals, a lot of resistance libs types have agreed on, is that how Hochul handled Eric Adams' blatant corruption, not to at least try to use her authority to get him out of office in the interim. I thought it was based as fuck when Mamdani said every fucking executive or mayoral action taken after the time in which you were indicted is just automatically rescinded. I thought that was based as hell. I thought that was a message that we don't stand for. We've had enough of corrupt Democrats in New York City. It really is a problem. And sometimes we have like a lack of talent. So yeah, that said, even though I was mad at Kathy Hochul, I appreciate that he's not self-destructing. He knows he needs Hochul, and so he's going to work within it. He's practical, pragmatic, and that's what I want. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're 100% fine, man. And I think that, I gave Zoran some shit for not endorsing Chi Osei, or not for not endorsing him, but for coming out and basically telling him to stand down and like commanding the whole DSA to like stand down against Hakeem Jeffries. I did think that was a mistake, but I can forgive it because of the fact that he's so brilliantly maneuvered the relationship with Kathy Hochul, and probably some of that did have to do with throwing Hakeem a bone. So, it is what it is. He just can't. His constituents.
It can't be from him, right? Like, it can't be from him. And
right. Well, that's why.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying that, like, it would have been okay with me if he didn't straight up endorse Chi Osei, but I just thought it was a mistake for him to get involved at all and come out there and basically command the entire NYC DSA to not support a challenger to Hakeem Jeffries. That I thought was overkill. But yeah, I think he's maneuvered brilliantly. I think he's a true political genius, not just in his communicative abilities, like we've compared him to Obama for that reason. But I think unlike Obama, what he understands is that, he started delivering on the promises he made day one. He didn't renege. He didn't backtrack. No, literally since he's become mayor, he has already just been delivering win after win. And I think that he'll be rewarded for it, because I think the voter responds to nothing more than feeling like, okay, the guy I sent to do the job is doing the fucking job. He's actually working on my behalf. I can forgive him when he messes up. He doesn't have to deliver everything he promised, but it at least feels like he's actually doing his fucking job. And that's something that the American public is so, we're just not used to getting that from our elected officials. We're just programmed now to think that, even if the guy you want to win wins, they're still not going to do anything. They're still going to have made a bunch of false promises. They're going to make up all these excuses like a Senate parliamentarian or whatever the fuck. And Zoran's just like, nope, no excuses. I'm a genius. I'm getting this done, and it's all getting done for you and for the improvement of your life and community.
Zach, thoughts on Mamdani, and then we'll get to our last topic.
Yeah, listen, Zoran is my hero, right? There is probably not a bigger Mamdani stan on the internet than myself, potentially Gavin, right? Gavin and I, we brag about this all the time. We're really fucking proud of it. We interviewed Zoran for the first time in November of 2020, okay? Nobody knew who Zoran was. We were still making jokes, calling him Young Cardamom, okay? He did the soundtrack for
Did you hear the rap shit?
Seen by anybody. Yeah, dude, he did this soundtrack for this movie called Queen of Kotway that I think his mom directed or some shit like that, but it was like Disney adjacent. Anyway, so he had this music video that everybody saw when it went viral later on in his mayoral run. But I was so inspired by this guy, and the vision that he had. We followed him when he did the hunger strike for the taxi medallion debt relief. We followed him when he did his first hunger strike to get a ceasefire resolution passed while he was or his second hunger strike when he was later on in the assembly after October 7th. This guy's had an incredible career, and he walks the walk, right? He has a history of putting his money where his mouth is. And this is a guy that, I think we should all aspire to be more like. I seriously cannot heap enough praise on Zoran. And I think the fact that he's been as successful and as deft as he has been as a navigator has been very, very valuable for the left and for the kind of politics that Gavin and I believe in. The fact that he's been able to deliver quickly, the fact that he's been able to do diplomacy politics, right? Yeah, I don't even know if it's called diplomacy when it's within the governorship, but you guys know what I'm talking about. He's wheeling and dealing. Okay, he's making things happen. He's shaking hands. As Gavin said, he played Donald Trump like a fiddle. What does Donald Trump love? He loves people who are great on TV. Zoran's like, I could do that on my worst day. I could go be great on TV. So let's go be great on TV, and then you stay the fuck out of New York, okay? All right, you don't make my life harder in New York. I'm just trying to give kids a daycare, right? Oh, don't worry about it, Mr. President. It's just daycare. You hate seeing little rugrats during the day, right? Of course, you hate that. So I love that about him, and I've seen people chirp him, right? Like I used to be the number one reply guy for Zoran when people would be like, "He did this, I can't believe it." I'd be like, "Fucking shut your mouth!" He's the
on the official account. On the official account,
on the official Vanguard, every single time. That's the only Twitter account I ever tweet from.
Yeah.
Officially. So go read through our replies. I fought with everybody. I was like, don't listen to this person. They're just waiting to criticize him for some stupid fucking reason. They don't understand the juggling act that he has to do. And I always remind people, right? We're commentators, so we get to say all of this shit. I get to tell you exactly how I feel, exactly as I feel it. Consequences be damned. Zoran Mamdani is the mayor of New York City. That's not how he's going to behave. He's not just going to come out here and kick and scream and talk about how horrible shit is. He's going to wear a tie. He's going to show up. He's going to say, "Thank you, sanitation workers. I'm going to go do some more work over here." And he's going to, have to shake hands with some unpleasant people. Oh, Trish Cook, whatever the fuck her name is. All that kind of stuff.
and that means working with the police, but not necessarily working with ICE, which will bring us to our last topic before getting to some questions from the viewers. And that is the kind of deplorable shit that ICE is doing. I, as well as others in the either Lib and Learn alums, this is Josiah that I'm talking about, and I know other people among the libs have said that we need to abolish ICE. I am going to give flowers to any politician, including Zoran, including Pritzker, including basically any Democrat who comes out and takes that position. Because
AOC.
At this point, AOC, yep, we can't with the personnel there. It's not that we never or I never want internal immigration enforcement. And trust me, I do want to change a lot of immigration law. I would do it. I think it's old. I think it's bullshit. I think it's too hard to get immigration here. But it's just a matter of who is occupying these different roles in ICE, and not just what they're doing to immigrants, some of whom are here legally or legally applied for asylum, but also American citizens. I mean, we're not talking about 2 deaths of illegal alien, criminal aliens, as they term them. We're talking about the death of 2 U.S. citizens, 2 murders of U.S. citizens. We're talking about deporting someone or attempting to deport someone because of their First Amendment rights. And yes, not just citizens get First Amendment rights in this country. We're talking about sending people to torture dungeons without any due process of law. And the flagrant abuses, both to U.S. citizens and to people who are in this country who have rights, is too much. And we need reform, and we need to abolish ICE. And to the extent that there's going to be any sort of pushback on that, I think that the messaging and this situation shows you that you can change public opinion drastically. The opinion over ICE has changed in response to what's going on, but also the rhetoric on it. So I want to get your guys' take on the political issues surrounding ICE, your opinions on the substantive conduct of ICE. So yeah, talk to me about what's going on. What do you think about these murders? And yeah.
Fuck ICE.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, yeah, Gavin, do you want to expound on that first, or?
No, that's my sole contribution to the conversation. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, yeah, it's absolutely horrific. It's genuinely horrific. I think it makes even your most moderate or centrist Democrat uncomfortable to see these lawless fucking thugs wearing bandanas like they're bank robbers. I still can't get over that shit. I still just can't get over that shit, just from an optical perspective. Like, how the fuck aren't they just going to dress them up like normal cops? Like, I feel like that would greatly reduce the fear from your average American voter if they just looked like normal fucking law enforcement. Like, because we're already such an overly militarized, overly policed community. We're used to our police murdering Americans in the street in cold blood. The fact that they're wearing masks, though, like they're the fucking criminals, like they're the ones that the cops should be chasing after robbing a bank or something. It's just so jarring. It feels literally like something out of Mussolini's fucking Italy or Hitler's Germany, you know, the brown shirts, the black shirts. It's in that same tradition. It's genuinely outrageous. I mean, how else do you say it? It's fascism here in the streets of America, and it's not even, it doesn't even seem like they're pretending otherwise.
Zach, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is not a new conversation. Anybody who is familiar with the Vanguard show knows that it's been fuck ICE since, you know, we've been a show, right? In 2018, one of the things that I really admired about AOC was her willingness to talk about abolishing ICE, the need to let people know that these criminal thugs without accountability are terrorizing communities under Donald Trump's first administration, and it needs to be stopped. The child separation, right? People had this weird amnesia, and obviously I'm not talking about the folks in your audience. I'm talking about the collective body of America. We had this real lapse in memory where we forgot how terrible it was. And most human beings, most individuals, you show them that shit, their body recoils. Like, I'm getting like goosebumps thinking about the images that are just popping up into my brain. You know, the horrible stuff, 2-year-old girl, 5-year-old getting on the bus, coming home from school. I mean, it'll make you gag, right? You physically hurt thinking about this. And that's our country, man. That's our country. And, you know, I grew up in the Midwest, right? I grew up with a dad that was in the military. So my dad loves the Constitution, right? He's a big 2A guy in a way that we disagree, but he loves the fucking Constitution, loves the First Amendment. You know, hey, if you have a problem with the government, raise your fucking voice about it. I kind of listened. I do that for a living now. You know what I mean? That stuff matters to me. I think about the fact that my great, however many greats, Andrew Polson, came here in 1748. My ancestors fought in the Revolutionary War. There was this idea that we could do better as a society because we're not going to let these redcoats from fucking England tell us how we're going to live. We're not going to let the Boston Massacre happen. That was 8 people that got killed, 6 people that got killed, however many it was in the Boston Massacre. All right, and it led to a revolution. Okay, that we all celebrate, that we're all taught in the first fucking grade. Hey, they did this for liberty. They did this for you. They stood up against totalitarianism, this amorphous threat that was killing their neighbors. They said, enough is enough. We're not fucking having this. It all takes you right back to here where you're like, I'm looking at my history book, and that's common to say, and people think it's sensationalist, but it's not. It is not. I mean, in Kansas City, they're looking at an Amazon warehouse, an old Amazon warehouse where they're going to start holding our neighbors like a concentration camp. What, are we going to have a fucking CCOT 2 miles away from my house? There have been people demonstrating. Gavin and I were demonstrating the other day, but at what point are they just going to shoot us all and say, fuck you, we're bringing in the buses? You know what I mean? It's nuts.
Yeah, no, and I think the point about the Boston Massacre is so well put because it relates not just to the ICE situation, but the use of military force domestically as well, where there is a presumption in this country, enshrined in our law and in our constitutional history, against the deployment of military assets within, to enforce civilian law, for example. Posse comitatus is the criminal law that makes it a crime to use the military that way, except for certain exceptions. For example, the Insurrection Act. Now, I agree, like Kyle Kalinske, that Trump is committed and he's going to try to use the Insurrection Act. And I have my hopium, notwithstanding the fact that I think that that's true. And unfortunately, I think that the Insurrection Act sometimes is vague enough that he might even have an okay chance at winning before the Supreme Court, who's just itching to give some procedural bullshit or some deferential bullshit win to Trump on some of the actions that is being taken. And that, I think, for me, stresses the importance of the need for structural reform. They improperly stacked the Supreme Court with Mitch McConnell's bullshit back in Obama's first term. And we need to be conscious of that fact and not shy away from some of these positions that are necessary to get our country to where we need to go, including adding members to the Supreme Court. I do think that that's a position, and Josiah agrees with me as well, that we should run on, and we should have people who are willing and open to talk about it. Listen, I'm willing to criticize Kamala Harris as well and the administration. That is Biden administration. One thing I think that they did really wrong is not like own up to positions that are like obvious and we should all like are just like, for me, necessary to own up to. And one of that is court reform. I think you need to, wear your heart on your sleeve and just be open and honest. Mamdani did this beautifully, I think. Conceding where he needs to. Yeah, okay, I shouldn't have said that. Yeah, when Hassan Piker said whatever he said about 9/11, I don't stand by that. It doesn't mean that I won't talk to him. But hang on a second. Yeah, no worries. And that's one of the reasons I think that people can respect him, because he stands on business. So yeah, that's my take on why it's important to actually signal the positions that you need to either prevent this kind of thing from happening again and prevent this kind of like disastrous deployment of federal assets within states. What happened to states' rights? What happened to the Second Amendment, especially in this case, where the guy is like not using the gun to attack anyone. He's just legally carrying the weapon. And so what? Now we don't have that right anymore. So it's entirely ridiculous. Gavin, while I have you, any thoughts on what you think is going to happen, or on what Tim Walz is doing, or you can just react to what I said?
As far as Tim Walz, I mean, I've been really disappointed by him ever since he announced that he was like fucking stepping down.
That was weak.
Yeah, and like all based on a video produced by someone who is quite literally intellectually disabled. Like, I'm not even saying that as a mean thing or to insult the guy Nick Shirley or whatever the name is, but like he's literally, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yes, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah,
yeah, and that's what took down Tim Walz. Like, that's what fucking took down Tim. Bro, you got picked to be on the vice presidential, like on the presidential ticket, something that would kickstart anyone else's career, and he took this opportunity and has revealed himself to be the biggest fucking pussy in town. And we celebrated Tim Walz as far as his actual policy achievements. I think that he is and was one of the best governors in the entire country. I don't think there's any denying that. We sung his praises. In fact, his inclusion on the ticket, I'm not going to lie, gave me a lot of permission to even support Kamala in the first place. It was stomach churning and sickening to support Kamala Harris, someone who I thought was a horrible VP pick in the first place. But then she picked Tim Walz, and I was like, oh shit, maybe she wants to get done in America what Tim Walz got done in Minnesota. It started getting me excited, right?
I got really excited by that pick, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And then he shit the fucking bed during the debate. This guy who he literally got picked for calling weird, he all of a sudden was complimenting and saying like, oh, I'm so glad to have this discussion with you, and it's so nice to share this discourse, Mr. Vance, and like all this disgusting, just, vomitous fucking appeasement, essentially. And I was like, he squandered that. I don't think that's why Kamala lost, but I do think that debate signaled a real shift in the momentum away from Kamala and towards Donald Trump. So I do kind of put part of her loss at his feet. And then, yeah, just this absolute pussy shit after some literal fucking troglodyte makes a video, a totally racist piece of shit YouTube video where they smear the Somali community. Instead of standing on your fucking business and defending your leadership abilities, you fucking cower and resign. It's the most pathetic shit ever. It continues. It's pathetic. So yeah, Walz, I think, is a total disgrace. I also wanted to add on, just to the point you were making about what we're seeing in the streets, how it's affecting Americans. I think part of the problem too for the Trump administration is that they don't really have anyone who's a effective communicator, like defender of these ideas. And I thought this was an issue with Biden too. Like, I thought that, he took a lot of damage for issues that a better president could have explained his way out of. He could have justified what was going on with, Ukraine or even Israel, stuff that I hardcore disagree with. Joe Biden was just so fucking cooked by the time he was president that he couldn't defend anything he was doing. The Afghan withdrawal is the perfect example, I think. That was a policy I totally agreed with, but he totally got destroyed by the media because he couldn't defend himself, and his press secretaries were all fucking annoying losers. And I think Trump's in a similar situation, honestly, now, where it's like all this indefensible stuff. Part of the reason why it's so hard to defend is because all the people that are working for
and
Trump,
they're liars.
Patel,
yes,
Pam Bondi, they're all so bad at their job. Like, I was watching Cash Patel this morning on Maria Bartiromo. Shout out to Josiah, by the way. I was watching his clip on Pondering Politics where they reviewed it, and I was just like, holy shit! Like, I can't imagine being Trump and watching Cash Patel out on TV. And if I was Trump, I'd be pissed. I'd be like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, this is do your job. Like, defend the fascism better. Why aren't you defending the fascism better? You're so bad at your job. Why did I fucking pick you?" Same with Carolyn Levitt. She's totally rancid. Same with all of these fucking losers. Like, I'm just like, literally anybody else. They're all freaks. They're all weirdos. They're all repellent as fuck. They look weird. I'm just like, what is wrong with this administration? It seems like just a nightmarish like DMT trip or something.
Cash Patel in particular, I think, as well as Pam Bondi, but Cash Patel in terms of like the optics of it. The dude was on Katie Miller's podcast. This is Stephen Miller's wife, and he just seemed like a freak weirdo. and he's like,
He is a freak weirdo.
yeah, I mean, he totally is. The Valhalla thing, tweeting, "Oh, we found the killer. We didn't find the killer." Like that's happened numerous
Katie
times.
Miller's podcast is like my favorite thing ever, by the way. I'm so glad you brought that up because ever since Zach and I went down that rabbit hole, I can't stop watching it. It's so fucking weird. It's so off-putting. It's like watching like aliens. Or, like AI Republicans or something. It's so fucking
seriously.
crazy.
No, it's literally like watching people. You can look into their eyes and they're just like blank expressions. It's the most bizarre thing. I want to. We'll go to Zach in a second, but I just wanted to address substantively to some of the things you were saying. I do think that of Biden, and not just some of the policies perhaps that we agree with or disagree with respect to international politics, but domestically, even now, Chuck Schumer. I saw this on Majority Report. Speaking of Majority Report, he was like giving credit to Trump and to Lutnick for some shit that was approved by Biden's legislation, which these people all condemned and voted against.
Take credit for.
Yes, it's sickening. And to see Schumer be a party to disparaging Biden's good legacy domestically, I think that is just unconscionable. And I think that was one of the reasons is that we had a lot of we actually did have a shift from a lot of what people complain about, both on the left and frankly, even some on the right, of this neoliberal establishment of just having free trade without any other considerations. Like Biden focused on production internally. He focused on workers' rights. At least his people did, and his administration is definitely like the most pro-worker presidency that we've had in decades and decades and decades. But it just didn't seem to get through, probably because of prices or whatever. But yeah, even though I'm in favor of trade, I'm in favor of good relationships with our friends and stuff. It just does seem that like Riz is half the job now. 50% of the job, and Mamdani knows this, is acting like you're doing the job. Zach.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I apologize if I missed the beginning of this question. My Ethernet cable that strings from upstairs into the basement has like a 3 square feet area that somehow my dog Malcolm managed to like crawl over, but then be too afraid to crawl back. Either way, sorry about that.
No worries.
I just want to pick up and maybe even take this in slightly the wrong direction, but we're talking about the debates, I imagine, and Tim Walz and all this kind of stuff. It was such a marked moment, I think, that we need to reflect on, because what it did was it basically set the stage for everything that was to come, right? That was in the aftermath of they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. It was in the aftermath of the Springfield, Ohio slander of the Haitian people and the Haitian community, who Gavin and I did an entire segment on, and we talked about how, hey, these people actually live the life that Republicans like wet dream of for immigrants. Like they're really Christian, they have jobs, they don't go out, they're not partiers, there's no drug use. Look at how they've developed this community into a great place.
They're supported by state Republicans in Ohio. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. Sorry, continue.
No, but when the Democrats weren't able to neutralize that, which they absolutely should have, and Tim Walz should have ripped his ass, read him the riot act on stage and talked about how gross and small and pathetic and dangerous it was, and talked about how he should be ashamed of himself to call him a father of biracial children in America. He needs to be a leader. He needs to profess that he's willing to change. He needs to resign from the ticket. That is the attitude that people wanted.
I totally agree.
They wanted straight up condemnation. They wanted righteousness from Tim Walz. They wanted him to say, I love my family more than anything, and it makes me want to vomit listening to the things you've said about your family. And I would be coming across that stage if you said that about my family. That's what people want to hear. They say, keep that away from us because that's not American. I'll tell you what's American, the state of Minnesota. And then talk about the diversity, talk about the Somali population, talk about the fact that you grow a certain kind of crops. I don't fucking care, but talk about how that relates to America. Talk about how that makes us all one. And when they couldn't do that, it was so sad. It was such a blow. It was the first time where I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if we could say Walz warrior anymore, more like Walz limp dick. Like this is insanely bad. This is flaccid. And now I'm looking at it, and let's look at the Haitian community specifically as an example. I've got a little bit of a better pulse on this. My sister works very, very closely with the Haitian community in Boston, third largest Haitian diaspora in America. In America, there are about 350,000 1,000 people from Haiti that are categorized, Pisco, I'm sure you know, with TPS, right? That's temporary protected status. One thing that because of the chaos, because of the flooding of the zone, we are not talking about enough, period, on independent media. I'm guilty as hell of this. We've had Ruti Louis-Jean, Haitian Boston City Council president, great lady, on our show to talk about this, but it's a real issue. These people are facing immediate deportation back to a country, and
a broken country.
How I talk about this. Yeah, Haiti is a beautiful culture, a rich, tremendous history, first successful slave revolt. So much to be said about the beautiful culture of Haiti, but you cannot expect people to be sent back there right now. Like I said, I'm connected to a lot of people, like a very well-established person in Boston, very, very well connected into Haiti, right? Their grandma was like in dire straits. They could not go back to see her. Because the American government is like, look, we can't guarantee your safety, right? And you might see idiot pieces of shit streamers like Sneeko or whoever it was that went to Haiti and was like, I can broadcast from you. It's not the lived experience of the people.
They have guards, they have armored vehicles. I've had people close to me who, when they went to Haiti, they literally had to be in like armored vehicles, have armed guards with them, like pretty much at all times. And that's not to denigrate the Haitian people. Like, they had their president be assassinated. It's a bunch of criminals and stuff. So yeah, it's really messed up, and that's exactly what TPS is for. It's so laughable to me. We didn't talk about this at all, but I'm totally against the Venezuela intervention war. It really is an exercise of war, even if it only lasted a day. And I was one of the things that I was disappointed, and I totally agree that we need to take a stronger tone on some of these issues, including the interventions by Trump in Iran and Venezuela. Is this like total hypocrisy by MAGA Republicans on praying to like the benefit of the Venezuelan people, when it was deaf ears? Why did we have so many millions of people come during the Biden administration? Well, they were fleeing the regime. And where was the sympathy for the Venezuelan people fleeing Maduro when they were trying to, beg for asylum? And it wasn't there. So they don't actually believe it. And one thing that we can definitely agree on is that the tone needs to be there. I think you and I and Josiah, we disagree on some things. We disagree on the core stuff. We disagree on some policies. But in terms of the tone, needs to be angry, indignant, and we agree that there needs to be punishment and accountability. I couldn't be more upset with that. For
what it's worth, I think you guys are all, bright, honest guys. I think it's fun debating. One of the things that's really annoying is when you're debating a bunch of fucking idiots that don't know what they're talking about. And I always learn something when I talk to you, Pisco. So, I do admire your work, and I think that you do tremendous output. I think that it's really cool that you have a law degree and you continue to be a presence in the independent media space. So, despite our disagreements,
I appreciate that.
I love coming on here.
I totally appreciate it. I don't take it personally. And I love disagreement. You guys know I fucking debate all these fucking losers who are literally arguing. Tim Pool, for example, you brought up Tim Pool before, and I go to his compound in West Virginia to watch him like try to defend deporting Mahmoud Khalil because he criticized Israel, and that's absolutely laughable. It's absolutely preposterous. Wait,
did you debate Tim Pool?
Oh yeah, I've done it like 4 or 5 times. I've debated on Kilmar Abrego Garcia. I've debated on Mahmoud Khalil.
Yeah, I did watch one of those.
Yeah. So I love debate. I appreciate that. I really do. The last thing on the walls, and then we'll get to questions, unless you guys have anything final to say on ICE or the Trump policies, is I think you can draw, as sad as it is, a connection between Nick Shirley, and a causal connection, I should say, between Nick Shirley and the murders that we just saw. And that is a sad state of affairs, that propagandist liars can bring about such chaos and such authoritarianism based on lies, based on bullshit. But it is an opportunity. Now that we are in this situation, I think people are starting to wake up that there needs to be 100% resistance. There needs to be a recognition that this is abnormal, and this is the clear and present danger that we need to confront. I'm glad that you guys agree with that. And before we get to questions, any final thoughts?
Totally. My only final thought on what you just said is that I totally agree with that. I've kind of been saying a similar thing, which is like the only silver lining of Trump 2.0, the only silver lining of this fascism, if we survive it as a country, is the fact that it'll radicalize people away from the bullshit old school neoliberal approach that has failed us time and time again, that has basically defined the Democratic Party of my entire life. Finally, people will wake up and say, all right, we got to move beyond that. We have to actually elect a more populist, progressive, socialist leader. So that's one silver lining. And then, yeah, just, people waking up in general to the reality of our country and learning how to genuinely fight back. I think it is important. And hopefully the next Democratic president understands that and does go after Trump to prevent this from happening again. Because that's my other worry. It's like, yeah, we might have another 4 to 8 years of calm, but then fucking Nick Fuentes is going to become president or something. Like, no, we have to stop this now. We have to realize that this Republican Party, quote unquote, is actually just a fascist movement that with every single election cycle gets a little bit more radicalized, gets a little bit more fascist, gets a little bit less interested in preserving democracy or basically anything that makes this country, right? So we have to realize that, and we actually have to defeat this party, not in the sense that we make it fucking illegal to be a Republican or something, but to make it so that this party can't keep spiraling out of control, to set some precedent by locking up these traitors and these treasonous fucking bad actors who tried to destroy
for their crimes, though. I mean, and you did say that. I just want to make sure it's clear for the audience. You guys don't identify as like Marxist Leninists who want to get rid of rights and not let people have free speech or due process or any of that stuff, do you?
No.
What are you talking about? I'm a fully automated luxury
Stop.
communist. I support the 4/26/9 work week. No, look.
No, I think
man,
that in fact, I think that we need to the only sense in which we need to be authoritarian is by making it illegal to be authoritarian. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need to be fascist against fascists. But as far as anyone else, no, I'm 100% in favor of liberal values, democracy, free speech, and I don't
voting
think that
and
even
stuff.
if a socialist becomes 100%.
Yeah, that's the shit that fucks me up, man, because that's why we're politically homeless, Pisco. That's why we're politically homeless, because we'll have the arguments that we just had with you, right? But then other people will be like, did you know North Korea is a paradise and it's all United States? And I'm like, no, it's not. And that doesn't mean I can't say that I want a bullet train like China, but we can be adults and talk about the fucking... They can't use the internet like we can. That's a CIA lie. No, it's not. Go to fucking China. Like, it literally, right? So that shit sends me over the edge, too, because like I said, we're politically homeless. I would say that Gavin and I firmly, proudly, and passionately identify as the left flank of the Democratic Party. And if I could leave your audience one fucking message, it is that Gavin and I are the loudest, angriest, proudest members of the Democratic left flank party. Like, I want to see AOC be president of the United States. I want to see Rashida Tlaib elevated. I want to see Ilhan Omar elevated in American politics. I want to see people like John Ossoff and Andy Beshear, take on more progressive roles in the Democratic Party. Gavin and I have talked about J.B. Pritzker. Like, I'm not a Democrat hater. I want somebody like Sherrod Brown to get a seat back in Ohio and rebalance the state. I like that kind of politics. I think that kind of politics wins in America. Our name, the Vanguard, that's a good segue into that. People are like, did you name it after that? Funny enough, I actually didn't. I don't read any theory. I never was like a weird theory guy. Like, I've watched Noam Chomsky lectures and I like watching lectures from people, but I'm not a theory guy. People was like, oh, are you guys like Marxist Vanguard people? And when we first started doing the show like 5 or 6 years ago, or when we first named the show like forever ago, it was like, oh, I didn't even really know that was a thing. Like, I just thought, oh, Vanguard, like cutting edge, forefront of the converation, like the Vanguard. You know what I mean? Like, a little bit.
So
like,
it's
like
not a
D'Angelo
reference to theory, and you basically, it wasn't intended to do that. It reminds me a little bit about the controversy over the Young Turks name. Because I don't know if you guys have surely covered this, that the Young Turks actions. And,
there's a reason he had an Armenian 19-year-old sitting next to him when he started that fucking broadcast and called it the Young Turks. I'm just saying that wasn't a coincidence. Jank, I just want to go and find the only qualified co-host in all of Los Angeles. Let me pick a recent high school graduate. But don't worry, like there's I'm just saying. I'm just saying, especially because he'd previously been on record denying the Armenian genocide. Like he made blog posts in his past talking about how it didn't happen, and
apparently, well, the funny thing is that when he hired Anna Kasparian, he still was denying the Armenian genocide. She actually talks about this, how she's the one that changed his mind, and how she sat down with him and was like, "Yo, dude, literally this fucking happened. I'm Armenian. My ancestors were fucking slaughtered by the Turks. Like, admit it," and he did. So that actually is pretty funny. And as much as we give them shit for that, I don't actually. Like, I think it's, admirable that Cenk has grown and it's all on the record, how he's admitted that he was propagandized and brainwashed. There's actually a lot of similarities with the way a lot of Turkish people are raised to the way a lot of Israeli people are raised, and that they're just like brainwashed into thinking like these genocidal actions are justified or not existent from their their government. So I actually totally understand Jank's journey, and I don't hold the TYT name against them to this day. But speaking of the Vanguard name, I do think it is kind of funny, and it's a good coincidence that it comes from left-wing theory. And I do think that, I mean, regardless of Marxist Leninism, you can have a Vanguard party that is still an effective political operating entity in this day and age. I don't think it has to be directly tied to like the ideas of fucking Lenin.
Yeah, I hear that, and one of the debates that we had that came out of that first Lib and Learn discussion was about the term socialism, because it really has morphed its meaning, slash is capable of many different meanings. And there's a sense of socialism which might refer to the labor movements in the UK and in some some of the colonies. It could be just the conservative strawman of socialism is when the government does stuff, or it could be a reference to the kind of socialist governments that we've seen either during the Cold War or after that. So I do think it's important to just clarify your meaning, and I have no reason to disbelieve you guys. And if I didn't have, and I really appreciate what you just said there, Zach, if I didn't have that view of you all, I think that this would be a very different conversation. But I do have that view of you, and Josiah has that view of you guys, that you're into harm reduction and that we're going to the same goal with respect to getting our country back on track against the fascist threat. And so that I appreciate. If you guys have a little bit of time, I just want to take some questions. I have some pre-prepared, and folks, if you have some in the chat, we won't take up too much more of their time, but just if you have any questions, put them in the chat and we'll ask a few of them, if that's okay, guys.
Cool.
All right, cool.
Yeah, sounds good to me, man.
The first question is an iteration of the question. All right. And you've already alluded to it, and I think the answer will be straightforward. But this is one of many people who wanted to ask the question. And this is the question. Mm-hmm. Will you commit to voting for straight ticket Democrats and endorse this strategy to your audience in 2026 and 2028?
So for the most part, we don't tell our audience who to vote for, right? We tell them who we believe is the strongest person, and we give I don't ever say you guys have to vote for this person. So that I will not agree to say. But I think I would challenge anybody who asks that question to listen to our show. I think that if you listen to our show, you'll know that that's exactly how I conduct myself personally, right? I never miss an election. I vote in local elections. I vote in down ballots. I vote in the special election. If the county legislature is up for reaffirmation, I'm there, and I'm fucking putting my thumb on the scale in one way or another. Because it's really convenient. The polling thing is right across the fucking street. And so I can come out here and be like, guys, it's really fucking easy. Make sure you participate in all of your little elections. And I'm not out here like voting for weirdos, right? Like for the most part, right? I think that you're going to find yourself in a position where the Democrat, or if there is no viable Democrat, the independent on the ticket. If you're in Nebraska and you realize it's a Republican or an independent guy that shares 65% of your values and thinks the Republican is a fascist, harm reduction would tell you to vote for the independent. So I don't know if you always have to vote for the Democrat. Like the Democrat could be a write-in that's deeply unserious. Like you do need to evaluate the situation as it unfolds. But I would say 99% of the time, you're going to be looking at a situation where it's like, that you might not love everything this person with the D next to their name says, but it's like an 85 split. You know what I mean? It's like obviously that math makes sense.
So to make sure I understand it, what you're saying is, as a general principle, you don't endorse and you don't advocate what your audience do in that sense when it comes to elections, but you will by the example of your behavior.
I'll tell them who I'm voting for. So I guess in that sense, I endorse, right? So like I told them I'm voting for Kamala Harris. I think that's the smart thing to do, right? But we're not like, you should donate to Kamala Harris. Here's the like vote blue act shit. Like that's the line that we draw in the sand. So in the sense that it'll be like, oh, let's midterm, like blue tsunami, let's fucking go. Like if you watch the Vanguard, that will be our tone. We're going to be cheering for people to win in races where they took AIPAC money, and we disagree with that. But we're much, much, much more critical in the primary stages than we are in the general election. Sometimes people on the other side of the aisle who critique us, like
does this commenter think we're going to vote for Republicans? Like, is that the suggestion?
I think so.
This was a sort of, they want the virtue signal. That's what's going on. They want people to say vote blue no matter who in that respect. And what I'm getting from you,
and we try not to give people that.
Yeah, I understand that there's often like a resistance. I already think that you guys will be in favor of harm reduction. I already think that you guys said that you were going to vote for Kamala Harris. Now, do I agree with all the criticisms that you have of the Harris campaign, et cetera? No, but that's sort of, I think, the biggest like elephant in the room for the audience is like, will they support Democrats? And I think that with your answer there, I think that you will support Democrats.
I'm
for
actually
sure. And
planning on supporting the Republicans in this next election.
No, but like not voting, you know,
that's
like
the
like
covert plan.
No, I get it. No, but the fear is that it'll be non-voting to third-party voting. But anyone who watches, I want to be clear about that. If you watch the coverage of the third-party scam bullshit that the Vanguard has done, they are very adamant against that tactic. So that
in
has
fact,
been
one
like,
of our
yeah.
even in our more like edgy, like fuck the Democrats era, when we were like, entertaining, like we had Howie Hawkins on the show and we had some Green Party people on the show, and we were entertaining that more. Even simultaneously to that era, we also dropped one of our very first ever pieces of actual journalism, an expose that we did on the movement for a People's Party. I don't know if you remember this shit, but if you think of the Green Party is a scam, wait until you hear about the movement for a People's Party, which I imagine at this point few people even remember, but it was kickstarted by Nick Brana in association with Jimmy Dore. They had a big convention. They had Cornel West and all these people come speak at it. Like even some honestly pretty legit folks kind of got roped into it at first because they just kind of bought into the they kind of fell for the shit, but we were like interviewing people from within the organization and immediately realized it was a total scam, that they never actually planned on running any candidates. That was just a way to raise money for Nick Brana and Jimmy Dore and create this fake movement. So we've actually been exposing third-party scammers and the whole unrealistic nature of that movement.
And specifically on the left, with Jimmy Dore and some of the movements that have emerged there.
Because I do think that, like, as much shit as we give the third party movement, like they are right about the duopoly being totally fucked and it really strangling the voter in this country and literally almost mathematically forcing the pendulum to swing back and forth between neoliberals and fucking fascists, and it accelerates the fascism, I think, inherent to the Republican Party because of that structure. So like they are right about the critique of duopoly, and I think that it would be great for us as a country to embrace something like ranked choice voting to help us break free from the two-party system. But unfortunately, as I always say, there's just not a viable third party.
Yeah, there needs to be a structure for that, like ranked choice or some kind of
right.
It's two rounds of voting, that kind of shit.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like, even in the very few times that you see third-party success, like, for example, we've covered Jesse Ventura's election as a third-party governor in Minnesota in the mid-90s. He is the only governor in modern American history to win as a third-party option at the gubernatorial level. But that was a special circumstance. He was a celebrity, essentially. He had way higher name recognition. In addition to being a mayor, a lot of people don't know this, but he was the mayor of Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, before becoming governor. So in addition to being a celebrity and a wrestler and an actor, he also had political experience. He really was the perfect third-party candidate, but almost always the third parties run someone entirely unserious, or it's just like Jill Stein for the 100th time or whatever. So yeah, obviously, no, we're not going to entertain that. And I'm actually pretty confident that the Democrats will nominate someone this time that is more palatable to the left. I think that the direction we're going in suggests that, like we will get someone that's more like a AOC or a Ro Khanna, or if he ran a Jon Stewart, would be fucking amazing. Like, I actually think that if the voters of the Democratic Party are presented with a really compelling progressive option in the primary, that we have a really good chance of getting that name on the main ticket.
I appreciate that. And folks, I'm not going to ask them if they're going to stop criticizing Democrats, because I criticize Democrats. And you should have seen my recent tweet against Marie Gluesenkamp Perez. Like, this shit is bullshit. And certainly, I think that it's good to pressure, for example, Schumer not to stand tall on the shutdowns and to criticize Democrats when they do wrong things. And so I don't have a problem. If I thought that the criticism of Democrats was done to try to like depress voting, I don't think that it would be different, but it's not that that's not the case. I don't have that impression. Question from Bungo. What do you think about Newsom being more combative in his public messaging against Trump than Mondani has been? You don't have to accept that framing, but that's the question.
Yeah, I think that that his PR team does a good job of tweeting like that, but I don't think there's any evidence of Gavin Newsom actually engaging with policy in a way that's really well. I guess that's not true. There is evidence to see him like obviously when he was like, okay, we're gonna redistrict California. That was actually really positive from Gavin Newsom. I would say that I'm disappointed recently in the tone that Gavin Newsom took with number one Donald Trump sycophant fanboy Ben Shapiro, and kind of folded to all of Donald Trump's framing. He walked back his line saying that ISIS is a domestic terror organization, which they absolutely are in their current form in 2026. Yep. It's not worth debating. The other thing he said that I was not very happy with was he walked back the fact that he had correctly identified the ethnic cleansing of the people of Palestine as a genocide, and there's about a dozen international neutral bodies that are willing to say the same thing. So I thought that him falling to that framework was weak politically. But we've also given Gavin Newsom his fucking credit for keeping the energy alive in the fight against Donald Trump and giving people a rhetorical example to say, hey, you have to bring the fight back to the Republicans. You cannot fucking quit. You cannot settle down. Always be campaigning. I think his own narcissism, to an extent, like all politicians, has been beneficial to him because he likes to see his name in headlines. He likes to see himself. He did the debate with Ron DeSantis at one point, right? He likes. So I think there's positive things to say about some things when it comes to Gavin Newsom. Here's my big problem, and what I'll leave your commenter with. I don't think he's up for the job, and I think a lot of people have identified that he's not up for the job.
I will go. Sorry, Gavin.
Oh, you're good. I was going to say that I think Gavin Newsom should act like his Twitter account acts, that he would be 100 times more formidable a candidate if he did exert that same level of energy, that willingness to ruthlessly troll the Republicans, to say offensive, edgy things, right? If he actually did that when he is in front of the camera, I think he would be the front runner. Like, I would not dispute his status as the front runner for 2028. I don't know what the fuck is going on. I don't know why he feels like he can choose the right strategy when it comes to social media, but then the most cowardly bitch strategy ever when it comes
specifically to when he's in front of like right wingers for some reason. Yeah, and maybe it's because he wants.
Here's your opportunity. Yeah, it would be so cathartic for him to destroy those right wingers instead of pandering to them. Like, I thought he did a pretty good job when he debated Ron DeSantis of Florida. If he just continued with like more of that energy and less of this weird, like, conciliatory, like, he almost comes off like he's like a dumb person, like when he's interviewing Ben Shapiro. Like, he literally doesn't, it's not just that he's pandering, he genuinely seems under-equipped, and like he can't actually,
and he's not stupid. Matter. Yeah, no, I totally get that.
Seems like he fucking is.
No, on his podcast. On his podcast. Yeah, I think that he has that.
It's so weird
perspective. Ezra Klein said something. He's like, I knew what was going on. You were listening, weren't you? You were listening. I'm like, okay, maybe, but that doesn't give you an excuse to let Kirk or Bannon or Shapiro. I still haven't seen that interview, but Josiah was like ranting at me about it.
It was terrible.
Yeah, and if you want to like understand them, quote unquote, or like listen to them or whatever, do that in fucking private. Like, we all know that it's a one big club anyway, and then these guys are all hanging out behind the scenes. So yeah, understand them in private. Fucking absorb their information so you can use it against them in public. Don't fucking do the weak bitch shit, like, I'm going to interview you and let you walk all over me shit, like, for everyone to see, when what Democrats crave more than anything right now is to see Democrats open a can of fucking whoop ass on the competition, to take out all this frustration that we feel on these fucking minions of anti-democratic fascist movement. Like, that's what we want to see, bro. So I genuinely don't understand Gavin Newsom's thought process. Like, I straight up don't fucking get it. Why he even bothers to have Ben Shapiro on if he's not prepared to argue about Israel. Like, you really thought Ben Shapiro wasn't going to bring that up? You really fucking thought Ben Shapiro wasn't going to bring up Israel and force you to say that it's not a genocide? Or, like, you're not even prepared to answer that question. He so clearly wasn't. He was talking out of both sides of his mouth. He was trying to say it was a genocide, but also it's not. And like, it was embarrassing. It was the most cuck shit ever.
Appreciate you saying that. I think I have to watch the interview itself. Josiah told me he was like fucking pissed about it, and yes, I'm gonna watch it. And
it's worth watching.
I'm not surprised, because the first interviews I like sat through 10 minutes of it, the one with Charlie Kirk, and I was really pissed at his framing there. And it really was the kind of litigation strategy which California is doing, and I give them major props for that. I give major props for the fucking the vote for the expansion of the gerrymandering right in California. I think that's all good stuff.
Same, we did too.
And so that all of that is positive, and so definitely agree with that. Weird. Especially that Nina Turner
so bad in Missouri.
What happened in Missouri with gerrymandering?
Oh, just gerrymandering. Yeah,
Yeah.
the Emmanuel Cleaver, who has his problems, but he was one of the first congressmen to call for a ceasefire. He's been redistricted. There's almost zero chance that he retains his seat. He was the first black mayor of Kansas City, and he's been a representative in the Kansas City area for a long time. And
It's honestly
so he's got
so
problems.
fucked.
But the fact that this is how he's losing his seat, a lot of people are fucking grouchy about it.
And we do want like a national solution, but I get so exhausted when people like Nina Turner, who once apparently for Democrats to be bigger fighters in some areas, said like, oh, on this hill, we don't want Democrats to gerrymander in response to what they did in fucking Texas and what they're doing across the country. It's so stupid. I don't understand. It almost seems like for certain people, I know that you're not those people like Nina Turner, it feels like they can't win no matter what they do. And so that always pisses me off. But thank you for mentioning that. A couple others, and then we'll end up. The question is regarding Trump. What do you think has surprised you by the Trump administration? Anna Kasparian said she was surprised by how depraved it was going to be. Have you been surprised by any of the actions they've taken, either internationally or domestically?
The one thing that none of the immigration stuff has shocked me. We told you there'd be fascist shock troopers, fucking stormtroopers, all this stuff. The one thing that has genuinely shocked me that I didn't see coming. All right, there's actually two of them. One, randomly destroying the White House. That way, he did not campaign on it.
Yeah, sure.
It seems like a politically suicidal thing to do for any president to just come in, like just from the sake of your poll numbers and like the way that it's coming off to the public. It seems so cartoonishly evil to bring a bulldozer out there and with no permission just start going in on the fucking White House itself. Like the people's fucking that is the most cartoonish shit. Again, he never talked about it. He didn't campaign on it. There was no hints that he was interested in doing this. And that's not it, obviously. I mean, all of the weird renovations he's done in the White House are just so fucking weird and cartoonish. So that's the one thing that does genuinely surprise me that I didn't see coming. The other one is Greenland. I had no fucking idea that Trump gave a shit about Greenland. I didn't even know he fucking knew what Greenland was. And then all of a sudden he gets elected and he can't shut the fuck up about Greenland and taking over Greenland. Same with Canada, taking over Canada. Like those, I did not have either of those things on my bingo card whatsoever. I could not have predicted it. Even the Venezuela thing, I'm like, yeah, clearly the neocons were trying to get this done for a while. Same with Iran, but fucking Greenland is so weird.
Zach?
Yeah, I think that, it's weird, right? It's kind of like, oh, were you surprised by it? In the moment, of course, there's a lot of things that I find surprising. Anything that I think is like shocking or just completely out of bounds. So like that morning when I'm looking at my phone and I'm like, wait, last night, Nicolas Maduro was abducted. He's literally on a plane to America right now. Like, that was shocking to me, right? Yeah. We've covered Venezuela for a long time because of and we talked about this, like, because of the niche lane we occupy on the left, people that I hate talk about Venezuela all the time, and they'll be like, look, it's only $5 for a loaf of bread in Venezuela. And I'm like, that's $5 for a loaf of bread. That's super unaffordable for people in Venezuela. So we were familiar with the situation there before, and we were like, okay, like, I don't support, United States intervention. Obviously, like, they have the right to nationalize their oil as a fucking country.
Wait, can you just pause real quick? I'm so sorry. Everyone saw it coming, but tanky losers. No one predicted that they were going to go into Venezuela, abduct him in the middle of the fucking night, and bring him to the United States in a kidnapping operation. And if you think everyone saw it coming, post fucking receipts. No one did. He's not talking about any action from Venezuela. They just said, you fucking loser, Jimmy, that they predicted action on Cuba and Venezuela. That they just said that, just not the specific operation. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, no, you're fine. But who fucking cares? We're big boys. We can people can be mean to us. But like the thing is that I totally agree with you that in what Gavin said. Like obviously there's going to be some action, right? The assassination of Qasem Soleimani leads you to believe that at one day you could wake up and be like, oh, this Iranian general's dead, or this guy in Lebanon just got fucking murked, or oh my gosh, can you believe that in Bolivia this happened? So you're always like expecting a little bit of something. But the more and more I found out about the like hundreds of people that are involved in the night raid in Venezuela, it became very like Black Ops. It became very much like I'm watching a movie that is also America, and I don't like the guy that's in charge, right? It really did feel like when you're watching like a film and it's the first like 5 minutes are something really bad happening being done by really like illegal guys who are behaving illegally, and then it like jumps back and you're just a podcaster that's playing on your computer and you're just like, this is how it all began to end, and you were just here getting the news. So that was shocking, and I try not to become desensitized to things like that. The other thing that I should have seen coming more that I didn't, expect the scale of was the self-enrichment. I knew that he was going to do some self-enrichment. He did it
But
in
it's
the first
everything.
term. Yeah, this time the $1 billion from cryptocurrency. I bring up the Witkoff brothers every chance I get because everybody will be like, Steve Witkoff is going to bring peace to the Middle East, and I was like, that was never the plan. This was a quid pro quo. His boys are getting Donald Trump rich as shit right now. He's there to appease people. He's going to continue to do Netanyahu's bidding. That's exactly what he fucking did, right? That's what the Donald Trump administration is going to get. That's why Miriam Adelson spent all the money that she did. That's why he waved at her in the fucking inauguration like he did and singled her out and was like, look at what we did in the West Bank. That's all thanks to you, Miriam. That's what your hard dollars.
He like
cost.
literally
Abraham
calls her
Accords,
out by
right?
name when this happens. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's truly uncanny. You've got like fucking Joe Rogan sitting in the front row. So it's a wild world that we're living in already. But the cryptocurrency, I would say, and then the spectacle that they created by abducting Nicolas Maduro the way they did with all of the people, and then watching that weird press conference, it was very strange. So those would be the two biggest like blow your hair back moments so far, I think.
Yeah, no, I think that those are some good ones. I think that speaking of Venezuela real quick, I have taken issue with even the strikes, and it feels like there's been a lot of allowing for, or I don't know, not a lot of commentary or forgetting about the fact that we're committing murder on the high seas by at least at the time in which they were happening with these different alleged drug traffickers. Just no
we just
basis.
Another one.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I
think there's a delay. Sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt you. I think there's a delay. What did you say? You said there's another one?
I was just saying, yeah, they just did another strike.
Oh shit! Yeah, no, and they've been seizing oil tankers and stuff, and I think people are far too forgiving and like, oh, it's all international. But I want America not to murder both domestically and abroad. Now, obviously, it hits closer to home when it's your neighbor, when it's a U.S. citizen, when it's happening on the streets with people who it's not justified to kill them, even if they did something illegal before that. Assuming that, right? But yeah, no, it's absolutely deplorable, the actions. Okay. I think that's it for questions that we have. But yeah, I just want to say I really appreciate the conversation. I know that it can sometimes be tough, at least from my perspective. I get it both sides, from the left and the right, in terms of, oh, you're too with the Democrats, or you're too with the tankies or lefties or whatever, however they want to construe you. But I know that you guys get it too, that your support for Democrats is selling out, is not something that you should be doing. It's not pure with your values and whatever. But I appreciate the conversation, and I want to give you guys the last word.
Really appreciate you having us on, Pisco. I'm a huge fan of your content. I really appreciate your perspective and really appreciate the conversation. It was genuinely a lot of fun. Can't believe 2 hours went by so quickly, and appreciate your audience as well, even the haters and the losers.
Terrible audience, Pisco. You should be ashamed of yourself. It was very bad. A lot of weepers, a lot of criers in the chat.
I hear you have a very good Patrick Bet David impression. Is that true?
Pisco, let me tell you a little bit about myself. Patrick Bet David. Pisco, let's be men. Let's level with one another. Let me share with you. Pisco, is that your birthday, Pisco? Let me share with you a little piece of advice. Okay. Your parents, they come here, they give you a better life. My parents, they stay in Iran. I come here, I fight for everything. Okay? And that's what Donald Trump has done. What has Donald Trump done? He's a descendant of hardworking people, very hardworking people. I'm a hardworking person. And so when I see Donald Trump winning, I say, that's the guy for me.
When I see, that is like the perfect, like he says that pretty much every other sentence. Give us your final thoughts, Zach.
Just really appreciate the time, man. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. The Vanguard podcast. Really appreciate it.
All right, guys. Have a good one. Best of luck with everything, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Yeah, peace out, bro. Take care.
Yeah,
later.
See you around, Pisco.
Okay. Awesome. Hang on a sec. We have some shit to talk about, folks. First of all, we might get stale in here. Are you... Oh, wait. This is a document. Okay. Where's Stale? He might be busy. At 3 Pacific Standard Time. That's 6. Okay, maybe we'll do it after. Yeah, the moderator Stale. Okay, my thoughts on the conversation before we talk about some more self-defense things and what's going on with ICE. I think based on that conversation, I massively disagree with respect to Chorus. I disagree with their assessment about the election. I think it's absurd to think that Gaza was like the losing issue, or frankly, even if the position had been different, that results would be that different. And that's one of the reasons why I say like the left isn't to blame for the election loss. It has to do with like prices. It's kind of baked in. So I couldn't disagree more with that. Definitely disagree with their characterization of some of Biden's policies. I don't know what the Shapiro hate is about, because I think they have the wrong read of that investigation. And hopefully we'll talk about it at some point. But you don't believe them. About what? Can you be more specific? I think you have to say this because they did express that they would support Democrats. Like it was kind of like, we will endorse, but we won't advocate that you do it. But they did say, I mean, Zach literally said he would endorse. So I think that is what we want. We want them to endorse the harm reduction candidate. I know we're not going to agree on all that stuff, and they recognize that it's the Democrat and it's never the Republican, and they haven't missed elections. So I don't know what you don't believe them on. Hiding power levels? Yeah, just like what's the basis for that? I literally asked them the Marxist-Leninist question. And so, like, what I'm trying to ask is, like, what's the basis to believe that they're hiding power levels? Because presumably this would be seen by people, right? As well as they have said that they voted for Kamala on their own show. You know? Their content from 2023 to early 2024? 2034? So gullible. You want to come on, Jimmy? What do you think they lied about Jimmy specifically? Jimmy. Trip says I'm trolling. I pretty much expected them to say this about voting. And I'm not sure what is the thing that was not said that you wanted to be said. Grip says, I think it was a little sad they kept saying how hard they would put their thumb on the scale, but wouldn't say vote Dem. I think fact of doing so themselves is a fine bar, though. Yeah, I just think that, like, them saying, yeah, he literally said, I will endorse. That's an endorse, saying I'll do something. And that's enough for me. I didn't say I didn't make insane Dem hate content during the most pivotal election. People say I hate Democrats too much, though. And I think that they were clear that they're not endorsing supporting third parties. And they criticize specifically Cenk and Anna for their bullshit false equivalence. So I'm just like, I guess I'm wondering, I understand the nitpick of, I think it is a nitpick. I say I will vote for this person, and I will endorse them, but I won't say you go vote for them. I understand that is a nitpick that might matter to some people, but I do think it's a nitpick. But like, other than that, it's like, don't criticize Democrats for stuff that you disagree with them about. And I don't know if that's like a prescription that is right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lame distinction for sure, but I just do think it's like, doesn't make that much difference to me. But I'm pretty sure this is what like the people want to make sure that we're all going in the same direction. And the criticisms of Trump are true, and Yeah, well, like we agree on that stuff. Who can say like we are more aligned with I don't know, Groypers, whatever. Support Dems for election. Yeah, Prime is different, right? I would, and I like Prime, by the way, interpersonally. But Prime was like, I'm never going to vote for a Democrat. And they're like, yeah, we'll vote for Democrats. And we did vote for Democrats. So that's what I like. I consider this different than Prime. Yeah, it just feels like it's not the stuff we disagree with, Pisco. You're correct with their misinformation about Lib and Learn. And Zach said to your face he didn't give a fuck about Biden Mansion student loans. Yeah, because they're like, oh, he should have just done it anyway. I'm just like, okay, that's stupid. Like, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to say? Yeah, that's dumb. An endorsement needs to be earned. Yeah, I think this is kind of weasel language. Endorsement needs to be earned. Oh, you mean strength of endorsement? Sorry, my apologies. I misread this. Let me read it. You can have a tepid damnation by faint praise endorsement, an endorsement with reservations, full throat, or whatever, from 1 to 10 if you want. It's not a binary. If you believe the candidate is making missteps, you cannot go to 10 on an endorsement off the bat. You cannot just do blue no matter who and ignore electoral strategy after the primary. I guess I'm not following. Is this a criticism of their endorsement as being tepid? Or is this saying you can't expect endorsements on that front? Dave says, yes, that's my criticism. If they say they will vote, that's great and all, but like their audience is probably not going to, after they hammer into them, to hate on Dems constantly. Like, what should they withhold the criticisms that they genuinely have of Democrats so long as they're telling their audience who they're going to vote for? Should they like not talk about their views on Israel and their views of complicity for Democrats? Should they not do that? In other words, and should I withhold my criticism? They should stop. They should stop criticizing Democrats with respect to Israel, if that's how they feel. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. If they care about saving America, yeah, they probably shouldn't have. Yes, if it's delusional. Well, then it's just a disagreement on the merits, right? Not critiquing is slave-minded and illiberal at its very heart. Yeah, I don't have a problem with criticism so long as it's coupled with like realistic and actual recognition of like the right course. But this is what I think. I think that they do this, right? It's unlike the situation with Prime or when I think I saw a clip of Hassan saying what did he say? Of like this wouldn't have been different under Kamala or something. That's the kind of stuff where I'm like, but they don't seem to have that. Don't lie about Harris committing a genocide. Again, that's their view. I disagree with the view, but that's their view. Shit lib. You shit lib. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's move on then. So bad faith. I agree it's a delusional view, right? If for any other reason that Kamala Harris isn't dictating the strategy of American foreign policy, to say nothing of the fact that like I don't think that she meets the intent portion as an actor herself. I think it's delusional. I do think it's delusional. But I just don't think it's like a lie from the perspective of like intentional deceit. That's what I mean. I think it's a delusional view. But we'll move on in a second. But I was happy with the statements they made about supporting Democrats. That made me feel good. Made me feel vindicated. The core stuff is so stupid. So dumb. In my opinion. Not necessarily about disclosure. I think you should disclose. But just this notion that everyone needs to fall in the same kind of income stream as like the best crowdsourcing influencers. I don't think that that's like plausible or desirable. I'm like John Eastman. I don't think I'm like John Eastman. It's wild that Chatter thinks that YouTuber needs to literally says you need to vote for X for it to matter when saying I'm voting for X signals their view. Yeah, I agree with this take. Just gonna be honest. I agree with that. That doesn't mean I will agree on every statement or criticism, but I think that's right. This was disheartening, yeah. Wait, I was going something with the course. And then the implication that it's like a viewpoint-based restriction when there's no evidence of them putting that in their contracts. That's the implication, right? And it's kind of like, oh, no, it's not that. It's because they support a Zionist. Well, we need to work with liberal Zionists. I'm sorry. It's actually good to work with liberal Zionists to end the Trumpian threat in America. If Dems were to take the Senate, do you think we could get any Republican senators across the aisle in conviction of Trump? I don't know about that. That isn't what they spend most of their time doing. How much of their content do you watch? Let's just keep this to Seth right now. They're going after people like Cenk Uygur, who is doing the false equivalence. They're going after people like Brianna Joy Gray, false equivalence. It's going after Trump. You will see soon enough that they can't be part of a coalition with you. I even just don't know like what is meant by the coalition with you. Like, are they willing to support Democrats? That's what I care about. And I think that they are. How can you say there's no nudging people if the course creators had listened to look at this sneaky ogre boy shift of burden? So I have to disprove that course creators were being nudged and that talking to subject matter experts necessitates nudging in this nefarious way that you're implying? Or do you have the burden, actually, for the claim? Okay. Good responses, guys. If you have any further comments, open to them. At some point, I don't know if today, but Stale sent me this thing that he wants me to look at. I don't know if we'll do it today. But, okay, real quick on ICE stuff. Some shit I've been seeing that pisses me off. Sorry, one more thing. There's a difference between surface level criticism disagreements that can be rectified and fundamental philosophical disagreements. Like the fundamental philosophical disagreement that Connor believes the shooting of this man was justified. Like that fundamental philosophical disagreement. Because none of this shit applies when I have... Now, I don't always have... polite conversations with Connor, but I sometimes do. That's a difference in value. That's a huge difference in value, and I'm sure philosophy between us. And yet this somehow hits closer to home than what Connor is doing. Yeah, I'll get the tweet. This is his new account because he got banned. I don't know if he responded. Characterizing him as wrestling law enforcement, as opposed to being like beaten, sprayed with shit, and as though that we're responsive to the claim of murder. Right? Adam says murder. So Connor's response here implies not murder. Right? Who was properly assessing the threat of Trump more? Connor or the Vanguard? Just anyone in the chat. Tell us. Who is better with respect to what Trump is doing and the corruption and attacks by Trump? Counter, who wants to talk about the Twitter files and a false equivalence there, and who defends these actions, both murders, or the Vanguard? You guys tell me. And yet, yeah, we disagree. Vanguard and I disagree on the chorus, on the results, like what is to blame for the results of the election, on some of the assessments of Biden and Kamala's culpability, on their policies. But all of that is stuff that Counter has too. He disagrees with my assessment of Biden's policies. He disagrees that the reason for the election, he basically thinks that like Kamala ran as a Marxist and was pussyfooting around with socialists, which is like objectively not true. So I mean, like, just check your laurels about whether or not the disagreement here is premised on something meaningful. And in the recent conversation I had, he's like, "Yeah, like I'm not committed to voting against JD Vance." What? So, as between Vanguard and Connor, who's more sure that they're going to vote for a Democrat in 2028? Answer that question and only that question. Who are you more sure of will vote for a Democrat in 2028, the Vanguard or Connor Points? That question and only that question. Connor says something. Connor says, "Yeah, I might vote for JD Vance." Did you hear Vanguard say that? You're more sure that Connor's going to vote Democrat by a mile. That is not my view. After all those conversations where I'm basically begging Connor to commit to voting for a Democrat, what we heard from the Vanguard was way better than anything Counterpoints actually ever said. Absolutely insane that you guys are saying this. That said, I enjoy my talks with Counterpoints. I'm not trying to be like, I'm just keep that in mind. Are we applying a double standard? And I think we are. And also in terms of the endorsements, Connor like reluctantly. Do you understand how Connor endorsed Kamala? Do you guys know how? I'll tell you how. I'll tell you how. I pushed him on a Twitter thing. He said, "Yeah, I'm not gonna vote. I'm not gonna vote for Trump. I'm gonna vote for Kamala." In like a Twitter reply. Now compare that, and before that, he was hemming and hawing the whole time. I remember going on Destiny stream, and this exists. All right, guys, I have the video of it. I have the video file where Connor's like, "I'm not gonna vote for Kamala at this point because she's too bad on guns." I have the video of it, him saying that. Yep. Oh, you don't like the truth? Oh, so now the goalpost is canvassing? That's how we. So if you don't canvass, I mean, I think it's crazy. Okay. Onto ice real quick. Really, dude? Really? Yeah. Um. So I'm gonna once again. Walk through a little bit of the self-defense principles for the shooting that just occurred, which Connor is calling not murder. The wave of purity testing that's being pushed in the past 6 months is coming from a handful of online creators. It is almost entirely emotionally motivated with ad hoc rationalizations. Just trust your gut on this. It's futile. Yeah, I agree. I largely agree. With that. I think that the Vadim soy pill combo on Wix was what I and many shitlibs fear when it comes to leftists. The Vanguard seem fine for sure, but the all or nothing shit is exhausting. No, I understand this a lot, but that's why I treat someone like Prime very differently than someone like, when it comes to this issue. Again, I still personally like Prime when it comes to this issue than the Vanguard. I think that we should distinguish them. Okay. When you're having these conversations, because I'm seeing a lot of mistakes, never forget that it is an objectively reasonable test from the perspective of the person actually using the force. And I really, really caution y'all. It's not about whether or not he actually was a threat. It's not about whether or not he actually was legally allowed to carry the gun. It's about what the officer sees in the moment and whether or not the force is reasonably justified in virtue of the threat. That's what's most important. How do people expect me to see Connor's ally when he'll defend the government murdering my neighbors? Yeah, I mean, bingo, bango. Bingo, bango. And so focusing on that from the, if there's a really sick, insane video here that I want to show y'all. Insane video that this like Washington Post reporter has. By the way, I can't wait to talk to Connor next because Absolutely wild. All right. All right. So this gray guy is the guy who strips the gun. This is Alex Preddy. I think that's his name. Kneeling down. This is the eye line of the officer who's going to shoot. Looking right down. Sees gun. Right? Why does he draw his gun right there? You tell me. Why is this guy drawing the gun right there? Why does he go to his gun right in that moment? You think he sees the gun? And maybe that's why? And that's when the gun is taken. The gun is no longer there. And look at this bushwhacking coward kneeling on the ground. Remember, this man has just been pepper sprayed like 3 times. Pistol whipped. I mean, could you like stay still after that shit? And Connor wants to call this wrestling? The gun has been removed. Connor's going to say, what is he going to say here? What the fuck is he going to say? Oh, this is split second, and he already saw the gun, and by the time he saw the gun, his mind turns off. Yeah, maybe he doesn't realize the gun was there. But even if he doesn't, where is the indication that he is going to reach for the gun? Right? Even if he doesn't see where the gun is going. All right? Assume it. Assume it. Where is the indication that would justify an objectively reasonable officer? Is just having a gun, in other words, enough? Aims right there. Bang. And never forget, this is like something like 11 shots or something. After he's prone, lying face up, backing up, taking additional shots. By the time he saw it, he was already going to shoot. If he doesn't know the gun is there, it's even worse. Why the fuck would he pull his own gun if he didn't see it? Right? I mean, that's another question. Like, why go to the gun if you don't see a gun? Right? We don't like fascists, so there you go. So this is garbage. And the fact that Connor's going to defend it is wild to me. But yeah, folks, keep in mind, the mere fact that the gun was not there doesn't resolve it, right? It might be useful as like rhetoric and shit to be like, he was unarmed, right? It's from an objectively reasonable perspective in the officer's position. So you have to just, if you're really being pressed to have this legal argument, you need to follow through and say, well, it's not just that the gun wasn't there. It's like, where's the indication that he knew that there was a deadly threat? You need to have that, right? It's the burden is actually on the person alleging the justification, not in the sense of the criminal stuff, because there actually is a burden shifting framework where in the course of a criminal case, but in the context of a conversation where the burdens aren't the same as a criminal case, if someone says it's justified in virtue of XYZ, they need to actually establish that. Why is it justified to shoot this man in this position? Clearly, it would only be justified if he had some awareness of a threat of serious bodily injury or death. And so you're going to have to say that he was like cognizant of a gun. Otherwise, no one should grant that if he was totally unarmed, that it'd be justified to shoot him in the back and then multiple times after. So his awareness of the gun, maybe he hears the word gun as the guy tosses it. We're trying to steel man the fuck out of this person. Keep in mind, officer created hazard doctrine as well. If it applies, if Supreme Court upholds it. If they're not communicating about the fact that they're taking possession of the gun, well, that's a problem, isn't it? Sounds like you fucked this guy. Why are you going up to him in the first place? Officer created hazard. But even put that to the side. What is the indication besides someone saying gun, 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 gun? If he said that, which, again, question. That he's actually reaching for a gun that he has. To use it. I think it's murder, open and shut. Whether he'll be punished, who knows? But just remember that like key nuance. It's not only about whether the gun was there. It's about whether an objectively reasonable officer would perceive a deadly threat, and that, it's relevant whether or not a gun was there if he could see one. Connor didn't want to vote Kamala because they're positioned on guns, but he's willing to jump on the talking point about no guns at protests. Yeah. Pretty wild. Murder? I mean, it's homicide, but you're a lawyer. Murder. Yes, murder. We walked through the elements the other day. Murder is the causing the death of a human being with malice aforethought without justification. If you shoot someone in the back, you're going to fulfill the malice component with intentionality or practical certainty. In my opinion. And there's no reason to downgrade that to some sort of intentional non-malice state. Given that, it's murder. So not manslaughter. I mean, it's possible you could raise like an imperfect self-defense claim, which would get you into like voluntary manslaughter or intentional manslaughter, which is a thing. But I think it's murder. Oh yeah, no, his gun wasn't. He wasn't using his gun or trying to use a gun. You think ICE can argue the guy went to there to die as a recent signal? Group leaks show he was a part of a group following ICE and coordinating how to interfere with ICE. I don't think that establishes that, and it also doesn't. It's not part of the analysis. The analysis isn't did this guy commit a crime. It's what an objectively reasonable officer in his position have done. I'll use the example. This really. Sometimes you use these examples to get the point across. Say that you fire as a cop randomly into a crowd, and it just so happens accidentally and completely with luck, you shoot an assassin that was coming to kill you specifically, and we know we can prove 100% certainty. Would firing the shot be reasonable in that context just because you accidentally hit? Oh, it's static again? Fuck. Why does it do this? 1 second. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Hello. I got it. Hello. Fixed. Okay. Let me start again. Imagine a cop shoots randomly into a crowd and happens to hit the assassin coming to kill him. No one would say that's reasonable. You shot into a fucking crowd, dude. That's not what an objectively reasonable officer would do. Yeah, you happen to kill the guy. What does it matter? It's what an objectively reasonable officer would know, and he wouldn't know what these leaked things say, even assuming it was anything that showed an intent to harm ICE. And yeah, murder is a subset of homicide. All right. That's just what I wanted to say. I saw that today. Some people, I think, getting the wrong analysis. Other than that, I'm still kind of in like a down mood, to be honest. This whole ICE thing just made me feel really bad yesterday night especially. It murdered you if it was bad communication. Agent thought gun meant he was reaching for it. Yes, I do. Because I think that there ought to be liability for officer created hazard. And depends what he said too. But it's also murder because of the following. And don't lose sight of that. Don't lose sight of what I'm about to say, okay? Even if it was the case that it was reasonable if someone said gun to shoot in that instance, because you're just like gun, therefore kill, like assume, right? Assume. Because you agree, he can't see a gun, he can't see him aim, like going for a gun because there's no gun there. But let's just take the assumption, right? Assume that he thinks that the guy's about to shoot or something. Shot in the back, multiple shots in the back. Guy's lying prone. And for multiple seconds, there's no gun in sight. There's absolutely zero gun in sight. Continues firing for multiple seconds afterwards. Even assuming the first, which again is an insane assumption in my opinion. And an objectively reasonable officer, having already fired like 4 or 5 shots into the back of a person, the person is lying prone, completely visible, wouldn't continue to fire in those circumstances. Those bullets, I'm going to assume, are a substantial cause of his death as well, given that they happened within seconds of the others. You know, it probably brought about his death faster. Unjustified murder. And what a world we would live in if we just say gun, no liability automatically per se. No, the circumstances in this case I think are enough for me. That would be an amazing tactic for terrorists. Yeah. And yeah, he has visibility, like he's watching this. Maybe a different angle shows that he doesn't see him grab the gun, but this angle makes him look as though he's staring at it, right? This is the moment where the gun is being handled. You can see him reach for his gun early. Why is he reaching for his gun? Are we meant to believe, does he see the gun? Oh, all of a sudden, right? He sees the gun, man. He sees it. Otherwise, why is he going for his own gun? That signal chat got this way again. Just loser conservatives, low IQ, emotional conservatives who can't deal with the self-defense issue and have to change the subject to the signal chat. The signal chat. What about the signal chat? The signal chat. He got him killed. They're literally drones. They hear talking points from their dumbass influencers. They just repeat them like lemmings. Goes to his gun. Are we meant to believe that this action wasn't motivated by some indication of a gun? But the gray guy's still there. He's looking down. Would an objectively reasonable officer be looking at what he's causing his fear To grab his gun? No, contend with what? What's the allegation? He's part of a signal chat with people who are responding to Gestapo ICE tactics and going to protest them? So the fuck what? At best, if his plan was to commit some sort of obstruction, how does that bear on the murder analysis? At worst, or at best, for your case, right? And if it's just protesting ICE, good. Fuck ICE. You guys are literally 2 IQ, emotional, low IQ, emotional babies. And then the administration just lying about everything. It was in for a mass event, mass casualty event. They will defend anything. There are no lengths, no depravities they won't defend. This is an American citizen, a VA nurse. They don't give a fuck. They will defend anything. Anything. There is no depth they won't sink past because they are cruel and evil. Okay. Better be low IQ framed in reality than a delusional genius. What does it even mean? The only thing I can think of is not knowing who pulled the gun. You can see the gun being pulled from his waistband, or you see a gun, then you see an empty holster. Again, his knowledge and awareness of the gun, to me, is evident by him going and to grab his gun. To the extent that he sees an empty holster and doesn't attribute that to the cop who is in physical contact with the gun, is that something that we would say an objectively reasonable officer would conclude? Right? That would be incompetence. That would be unreasonable. Don't go outside with an empty holster. Okay. I just really don't feel like moving on. I might just end there until we have the stale thing and then come back for the stale memes. I'll take a look at this document before. This is interesting. If you guys don't know, Stale has a little bit of a controversy. He talked to me about the Ethan Klein lawsuit against the Snark, whatever, the streamers and the Snark Reddit mods or whatever. So we had that conversation, but recently he had this like controversy where he made a video about a topic of deadly seriousness, and he got clowned on a little bit, but he sent me this document, so maybe we'll take a look at it, see what's up. Hope you guys are doing well. Did you have a good weekend? Are you staying safe? It's snowing pretty bad in many places. Why not analyze the slowdown stabilized version? I've already looked at it. How does that help the case at all? I've seen different versions of it. I've seen the slowdown stabilized version. I don't understand we can do it if you want at some point. But I love you guys very much. Appreciate the support. Yeah. This is sad. Sad for our country. But have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your Sunday. I might be back later tonight for some stale memes. Or if I want to do my other content shit. But no promises. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your night. Bye. Appreciate you. Yeah, debate Rob. But I don't want to do it if it's just going to be fucking dumb. Like, did you condemn Ashley Babbitt? Did you? Like the thing is, any debate with Rob will end up just being about Russiagate. And did you condemn Democrats' language with this? And he wants to talk about the definition of insurrection again. So it would, on this, I would make it like an actual topic and a proposition, and it'd be a formal, like, this is the debate proposition, and these are the arguments. And I would come with a actual like, argument with a premises and conclusion, because I don't want to just, at a moment like this, you should be talking about nonsense that doesn't matter. Later. Love you.